Welcome back everybody, back again with a new episode of RPG Gibberish. And before we get started for this episode, which as you can see by the title is going to be all about Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, the newest SMT release, I have a quick announcement, and that is of course that my co-host is not here at the moment, and my co-host is actually changing names. So it's no longer RPG Swagman and Arrow. It's now the Wanderer from the past. So we'll see how that goes with the fonts and logos and stuff. But a great new title and name from Greg. So I hope you guys will enjoy it. But he's not going to be here for this episode. He might be here soon on RPG Gibberish with some episodes being planned. And of course, I know that you guys are all very excited and interested to find out what our thoughts are on the Trails in the Sky announcements that Xseed has been dropping. Yes, we are hype. If you've seen the Facebook wall, it's very interesting. But we're not going to be talking about it in this episode. It's all going to be about Devil Surviving. And I'm not going to be doing this on my own. I have a great guest here who has appeared on RPG Bridge before. And that is, of course, the great SMT and Atlas fan, Devil May Pie.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm very excited to have you here on the, the what is it, the sixth RPG vs. Revived episode. Like I mentioned before, we'll probably do this more often when there ever is a new release game, new RPG release, and some people in the community have played it, like yourself. Then I'll invite you on to talk about it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So. Before we actually get started for this episode, we're going to be splitting it up. There's going to be a spoiler-free part, very specific spoiler-free part. So if you have not played any of the Devil Survivor games, we will talk about Devil Survivor 2, and then later on, once we make it, make it clear, there's going to be a spoiler part, spoilers on the story, spoilers on everything, and as a warning. There is going to be no spoilers for Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor Overclocked, just for the fact that it's been 5 years since I played it and I can't even actually remember how the story went by. So, be safe here. It's only going to be Devil Survivor 2 spoilers. So, that being said, let's delve right into the actual talk Devil Survivor 2. Alright, so time to talk about some Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, or actually Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. It's probably one of the longest titles I have in my video game collection. So, we'll see how it goes. Devil Survivor 2 or Record Breaker, whatever, you will probably hear the terms and titles intermixed. Desu 2, whatever. I'll try to stick with Record Breaker for now.
Yeah, we'll just go with Record Breaker for short.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely the best way to go. Record Breaker was released early in May 2015 for the Nintendo 3DS, and just to sadly disappoint quite a lot of people out there who live in Europe and Australia, officially Record Breaker is not yet out in Europe and Australia. It's coming out in the fall. Or no, actually it's coming out, and this sucks, it's coming out in 2016 actually. Etrian Mystery Dungeon is the one that's coming out in the fall. I thought we were through with this bullshit, but NIS Europe apparently has other plans, so you guys will have to wait for the full version of Devil Survivor 2, which Record Breaker is pretty much that. It is the enhanced remake, and we'll talk a little bit more in a second what it actually is. It's the enhanced remake of Devil Survivor 2, which came out in 2012. Took a pretty long time for Atlas to release it. The game was postponed for a while due to quality issues. But we finally got it in May. So of course, me being the absolute ridiculous Shin Megami Tensei fanatic that I am, I had to import it. I have been playing it on my North American 3DS. And I've actually been playing it quite a lot. It's actually right before the recording of this one, still playing it. That being said, I have finished it though. And Danny, you finished it as well, right?
Yeah, I finished it. I put in about 50 hours at this point. I'm not going the whole 100% route like you are, but It seemed like it's been a while. I already beaten Witcher 3 since I beat this one, but that's only been like 10 days ago. So I've been playing a lot of stuff, but yeah, I remember a lot of details quite fondly. So yeah, I've been much hyped for this one ever since I played Overclock last year, and it really sucks about Europe, having to wait that long. So, I mean, if you really want to play Atlas games, if you're in Europe, you might as well get yourself a North American 3DS and start importing because it seemed like they've been having this kind of trouble for a long time. Just hope Persona 5 doesn't follow along with that.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I remember 2013. Shin Megami Tensei 4 was announced very early on that year. I finally imported the Fire Emblem Awakening 3DS. What was it? July, I think SMT4 dropped. That game was not released in Europe for at least 15 months or something like that. It came out like October 2014. So that was my game of the year for that year. Having to wait 16, 17, what was maybe even 18 months for that game? Yeah, no. That's not going to happen. Persona Q actually came out within 2 weeks of the North American release, which that's good. But now we're here, Record Breaker. I don't actually hope that it's going to be my game of the year, Record Breaker, but for right now, already halfway through the year, it is my game of the year. So, import that stuff. However, to get back into it, I think we have to talk a little bit. We both played this game for many hours and we're very well in depth. But we've got to take it a step back for people who aren't very, very aware of what Devil Survivor actually is. So, Devil Survivor is basically the strategy RPG spin-off series within the Shin Megami Tensei. So usually Shin Megami Tensei, it has their first-person dungeon crawlers, or now with SMT4 the third-person dungeon crawlers, and then they have quite a lot of different sort of spin-offs out there. And the Devil Survivor spin-off is actually one that is like a grid-based strategy RPG or turn-based RPG or even tactical RPG, intermixed with turn-based battles. So you move on the grid, and once you actually come up close to an enemy and you hit the attack button, it kind of, say in a Fire Emblem game, you just get the animation where they're fighting. But in a Devil Survivor game, it's actually different, where you're 3-on-3, you have your leader and a left and a right, sort of sidekick. And then you just have your turn-based battle system where you can use attacks, you can use spells, you can defend, buffs, all that, heal, all that good stuff. And so it's kind of, it's kind of a hybrid between a strategy RPG and a tactical RPG. And I'm quite fond of that. I don't know, Danny, how are you with the actual hybrid gameplay?
I quite like it a lot, actually. I'm still have not played that many strategy RPGs. Like I said, Fire Emblem Awakening was kind of my big eye opener, and I think I only do we even count Valkyria Chronicles. I think that's kind of a hybrid as well, so I don't count that. But yeah, I played Overclock last year. I absolutely loved it. I did like the fact that it was grid based, but at the same time, once the battle started, it was your standard turn base, and you have your good old SMT mechanics with the or I guess the newer ones, the press turn and your demon party. And yeah, I quite like how the battles go about. It's pretty much not kill the next enemy. There's a lot of variety in the battles where you have different objectives. We can get more into that when we talk about the whole battle stuff. But it's there's escape sequences, help protect civilians. Just a lot of variety in gameplay. So it never felt stale to me, and it was a lot of fun playing out these battles.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's yeah, we'll get a little bit more into gameplay differences later on in style, but just from get-go, so that's the Devil Survivor series. So like we mentioned, we're talking about Devil Survivor 2, and we're talking about Record Breaker right here. So to make it a little bit more clear, the history of Devil Survivor is that there's currently two games out there. There is Devil Survivor 1 that came out for the DS, and then there's Devil Survivor 2 that came out for the original DS. I've played both when they came out, and they were really great. Danny, had you played the original DS versions?
No, I've not. Like I said, I've only played Overclock just last year. Obviously, having the more enhanced version on the 3DS, I opted for that. I was so very close to playing Devil Survivor 2 many times before Record Breaker came out. I don't know. I just couldn't wait anymore. I was like, I just want to play Devil Survivor 2 right now. But I was like, no, just gotta be patient. Record Breaker's right around the corner. So I ended up waiting for this version. So no, have not touched the older ones. So can you tell us more, about the some of the difference between the two versions for people who don't know?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so basically what happened is, we had those original two DS versions, which are great on their own. I really love them. If you've seen Arrow stuff on our Japanese RPGs, they were there. They're in there. I think Devil Survivor 1 was in the 50s, Devil Survivor 2 was in the 30s. So really great games. And what happened afterwards is Devil Survivor 1 got remaked. And like Danny mentioned, it's Devil Survivor 1 Overclocked, which I still have to play. Actually, that's one of the games that I imported back when I imported my North American 3DS. I still haven't touched it. I wanted to play it before Record Breaker came out. Backlog work and stuff. So it's going to be played soon. Actually, uh, you know, once I finish Record Breaker, in my opinion, done with it. I'm not done with it. I'm just having too much fun. So, but that's Overclocked. And before I actually get into the differences between Devil Survivor 2 and Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, I just want to talk about Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor 2's story. So I have had a couple of comments from people before, like, "Oh, it's Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, so yeah, I'll hold off until I actually play Overclocked or 1." It's not really needed, actually. This is a sequel in style only, not in story. So the cast of characters in Devil Survivor 1 is completely independent of the cast of characters in Devil Survivor 2, which is kind of the same in Persona 3 and Persona 4. It is just a same gameplay system, same sort of setting, which we'll talk about soon. So if you have any concern of I have to play both Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor 2, you know, I would recommend you play both, and I'm sure Danny will say the same, but you don't really need to play them in order. So like right now I'm playing Record Breaker first, and then I'm going back to Overclocked. So just to set the record straight, they are
Yeah.
two distinct story games, and you don't need to play one in once. Which is different, say, Digital Devil Saga, to confuse you again. Digital Devil Saga, that you actually have to play one first and then the second because it's a story continuation. But it's not the case with Devil Survivor 1 and 2. So now we got that out of the way. What is different in Record Breaker is so we had the Devil Survivor 2 story, which is a story that takes place over about, I would say, you have it takes place over days. So there is about 8 days in the original Devil Survivor 2 story, and there's multiple routes in it, and we'll all talk about that later on in the spoiler part. But what happened with Record Breaker is they did a couple of nice things. They made it more accessible. So for the 3DS remake, they added in a easy mode, which is called Blessed difficulty, opposed to the normal difficulty, which is the Apocalypse difficulty. So that's nice. They added in, of course, voice acting, which we'll talk about soon. But they added in voice acting. Some really great voice cast right there for some of the great characters. But the biggest change they added in here is a completely extra story arc called the Triangulum. So the original story was dubbed the Septentrion arc, which is referring to the name or group of the bad guys, which is the Septentrions. And then the new arc is the Triangulum arc, which, depending on how you play it, it is about 15 to 25 hours long. It really depends on how much you carry over from your Septentrion playthrough. If you start with the Septentrion playthrough, you can delve right into the Triangulum arc if you wanted to. I didn't do it because, even though I beat Devil Survivor 2 before, I just really wanted that refresh. And Danny, I think you started with Septentrions first because it was your first time playing, right?
Yeah, obviously, and I really like what Atlas did with this one, because for people who might have played Devil Survivor 2 already, who maybe didn't want to go through the same story again, they can jump right into the Triangulum arc, unlike in Overclock, where the new extra day in Overclock was not unlockable from the get-go. You would have to complete the storyline to unlock it and play through that eighth day.
Oh yeah, that when Overclocked came out, that was actually very frustrating because I actually went through Devil Survivor, the first Devil Survivor, and getting all the endings. I did that in a little bit of a strange way because I had a flash card. I could back up my save, and I kind of made like a master save like 2 days before the end. And there I actually just reloaded all the saves. And then Overclocked happened, and then I figured out I had to play the entire game again. So that's why I've never played it up until now. But yeah, it's a very good thing that they actually made this playable from the get-go. And if you say, if it's your first time playing, go with Septentrion first. The Triangulum arc is a story continuation. It picks up right at the end of, and here's where it kind of gets confusing. And I'm saving it because it's a little bit of a spoiler. But just know that Triangulum takes place after the Septentrion arc. There was a little bit of confusion that it was going to be a what-if story, parallel dimension, all that great crazy stuff. It is a story continuation. So you have Septentrion arc. Once you beat that one, you go right into the Triangulum arc. And like I mentioned, you can, if you beat one of the arcs, you can unlock points or titles, and you can use them and you can carry over stuff. So if you carry over like your skills learned and your some of your demons, you will be a lot more powerful at the beginning of the Triangulum arc, and you can breeze through it a little bit faster, which was the case for me. The original, I beat on my first playthrough, I beat the Septentrion arc. I did some of the neutral route, which was about 35 hours. And then it took me about 15 hours to beat Triangulum for a total of 50 hours. And, Danny, I think that's the same for you, right?
Mine was a little less. I played about like 70-80% of the game on blessed difficulty, so I did less free battles. So mine was a tad bit shorter, but actually what I really like about the point system and carrying it over, I like a lot of RPGs where it's new game plus where you just pretty much get everything, money, levels, or demons sometimes. I like where you get to pick and choose. I know we're jumping too far ahead here, but I'll just go ahead and talk about it now because I guess you get points based on what you do in the game, and you get to pick and choose what you want to carry over. Like you want to carry over money that costs a certain amount of points. If you want to carry over demons, or if which the best thing you should definitely pick is the fusing limit. There's an option to fuse demons at any level in the next playthrough if you wanted to. So stuff like that I really like. So you can kind of pick your own difficulty for the next playthrough.
Oh yeah, no, that is actually a great system, and that is actually what really got me hooked on this game. Is I did the neutral Septentrion route, I did the neutral Triangulum route, and then I was like, yeah, but I want to unlock more of these titles, and I actually want to get all the rewards. So this is when I went in through another Septentrion route, and I beat that one, and I did all the side quests and the super bosses for the Septentrion route, and then I figured, let's do another Septentrion route and get the final demons that I'm waiting to unlock, because we'll talk about that more. And I'm actually right now at the final boss of my third Septentrion route, and I'm pretty much right before we started recording, I was working on getting 100% compendium. I have about 58% now, and hopefully I'll get that 100%. And then there's Triangulum endings I still got to get, and then it is a very, very addictive system, which with the DS versions I never really got into it. I just beat the game and I kind of reloaded saves, with backing them up without having to replay the entire game. But now I see the benefits actually if you have the desire to go back and you get these titles and skills. Now it's not a perfect system. I'm not going to lie. I'm now in my third Septentrion playthrough, and all I'm doing is just auto reading through most of the events and just picking the events that I missed. But the battles are ridiculously easy. I carried over all of my level 99 demons. It's there's no challenge anymore. Even just the bosses, they are ridiculous. I can one turn bosses, and even on the apocalypse difficulty, there's no challenge. It's not like the levels of the enemies are the same as my demons, so it's very easy to get through. But on the other hand, I'm just like, why not just skip the battles? Just give me an option to skip it, and just let me actually play the ones that I want to play, which are the super bosses and the special events that I missed, and where you can unlock demons and all that stuff. But it's a great,
Yeah,
great fucking system.
yeah, and let's talk about the difficulty for a second. Is after your many playthrough, is there a third or hardest difficulty to unlock or anything?
Sadly, no. So it's just Blessed and Apocalypse. The
Yeah,
third difficulty, in my opinion, was New Game Plus. If you do New Game Plus and you have to do the side quests, the difficulty comes in because whatever you do, no matter how many titles you get, you will never be able to carry over your level. So you'll always start at level 1 or level 5-ish again. And then you can get through these events where the demons that you're fighting are really high level. So that's where the challenge comes in, and you have to do some super bosses, and those were quite challenging. I would say that is the third difficulty. I still have to do one super boss in the Triangular Mark, which is new. So that's where it comes in, but there's not really a super difficulty, I would say.
yeah. And for those people who are wondering, what difficulty to pick, for me, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm always going for the easiest one in JRPGs. I am there for the story and the visual novels and shit. So so I'm not too crazy about difficulty, but I will say this: if this is if you played other SMT games before, and especially if you played Devil Survivor 1, definitely go for Apocalypse. Blessed difficulty was too easy in my opinion. I played about 80% through September arc without a game over screen, and that's kind of odd for SMT game for me not to die. So yeah, if you played some of these SMT games before, definitely play Apocalypse because you can always bump it down whenever you want if it feels like it's too hard. But if you're new, if this is like your first SMT game or whatever, maybe play on Bless, and you can always bump it up to Apocalypse later on.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that is the good thing about it. Actually, I will say the Devil Survivor games are easier than the other SMT games that I've played, but with the years they're also becoming more accessible and try to cater to all crowds. And you can just bump it up and bump it down. So I started and played on Apocalypse until I read this very interesting little. Well, it's not really a glitch; it's just a nice to have feature. Which, if you're interested what that is, shameless plug, you're going to have to look at my tips and tricks video, which is going to be up sometime. But there's a nice little bonus thing that you can do with switching difficulties regarding cracking skills. But we'll get to talk about that another time. But yeah, you can you can change the difficulty if you want to. So that's nice. Um, on Apocalypse, you'll just earn less experience, and they have more HP and you have less HP. I didn't really, you know, I didn't really see any difference. I didn't play that much on Blessed, but I don't think there's actually a more unfair AI, which, that might have been a thing because sometimes the AI was a little bit stupid, I would say.
Yeah.
I,
What I seem to notice between the two, maybe you can confirm since you played most of it on Apocalypse. I played Blessed for about 80%. When you battle the three enemies, if you go for the middle leader, you kind of end the battle. But sometimes the other two enemies will kind of take a hit as a shield. I noticed that happens more on the Apocalypse difficulty, where you can't just try to one hit the main leader.
I think that is. I venture to guess that that's because the later demons have that leader soul, hero soul, paladin soul skill more so, and they do more Makara and Tetrakarn type of stuff. So I don't think that's actually just because of the difficulty. It's more because of the skills the demons have. But maybe that's something they threw in as well. So maybe there's a higher percentage for certain demons to have those skills, maybe. But it's definitely something that later on it becomes tougher, of course. Um, But there's the difficulty, so you can always bump it up, bump it down whenever you want to. Um, and it's very user friendly. It's very playable. So yeah, that being
Yeah,
said.
I don't know. I found with a record breaker the difficulty wise compared to overclock is so much different. It seemed like overclock I had some much harder time. I don't know if it's because it was my first Devil Survivor game, but it seemed like some of the boss fights were pretty cheap and were insanely hard to me. But this one it seemed like it's more well balanced throughout the game.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be finding that out soon. Like I mentioned, it's been very long since I played Devil Survivor 1. It was actually my second SMT game many, many years ago. So I beat it in 2010. But I'm going to delving into Overclocked right after for me, I think 100% record breaker. Then I go into Overclocked. So I'm pretty sure we'll see how difficult it's going to be. But great strategy RPG games they are, and they are very accessible for the difficulty you can select. So, besides just being a strategy, tactical, turn-based RPG hybrid game, there's actually some really nice systems in these games to basically enhance your experience. So, in general, it's a Shin Megami Tensei game. So you have demons. So you have the main characters. We'll talk about the characters soon. But you can have up to 4 playable characters. Um, so you have up to four playable characters, which are the team leaders, and then you can have 2 demons, one on your left, one on your right, to help you out. Basically, you get these demons by you know in the beginning you have the demon auction system where you can pay money against random bidders, kind of like eBay, to get some of your demons. Now I used the demon auction system quite a lot on my first playthrough, but I've not touched the demon auction system, not even in the Triangulum arc. I never really needed it anymore. So once my compendium started filling up, which is the other thing, I moved from the auction to the compendium. I don't know. Did you have the same type of behavior, or?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I bid for cheap demons to fuse them, but and sometimes I might need that lesser demon again. Sometimes it's cheaper to bid for them than to buy them from the compendium. Seemed like the compendium cost was much higher, but towards the end game, when you have like much more powerful demons, there's no reason to kind of go back and buy any of these demons anymore. It's better off to just fuse new and better ones.
Yeah, exactly. So the auction in the beginning indeed is very nice. You can there's like a 5-second countdown where you can basically either pre-bid very high, or you can just wait on the last second. I noticed just waiting until they bid. You kind of see like this emotion icon to kind of give away if they're above their price. You can basically see their bidding price in the beginning. So if they're like very happy, they'll probably pay a little bit more. So I've actually had a couple of times where I just at 10 Maka I actually got a demon, which was really lucky, or just missed out on a few of them. And then later on, the more you buy demons in the auction, you get these auction cards, and you can level up. But basically, there's like 4 or 5 different auction ranges, and you can get demons up to level 40, I would say. Once you're actually in that late Septentrion or later in the game, you really have to rely a lot on fusing, and to fuse unique demons and to fuse stronger demons. So demon fusion, it is the core of an SMT game. It's always there. And the good thing about it is there's many different ways to fuse demons. So you have your companion, you can re-summon them. It's going to cost you quite a lot, unless you are on New Game Plus, where you have the titles for lowering the price of the demon companion, which is great. But you can just get the ones you had, and you can fuse them together. There's all sorts of different types again, which that has always been, for me personally, the tough thing about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. Is in Persona you have the tarot types, I would say, and in SMT you have different types of types. And I don't know how it's for you, but I maybe there's some people out there on the internets and the game facts and stuff that can just easily sum up like, oh yeah, you need that particular demon. No, you just got to fuse type A and type B together, and then you'll get type C. And I'm like, yeah, no, I am. I
Yeah,
don't understand that cross system.
yeah. To me personally, like you said, Persona had their own system. Whatever Dis Arcana becomes Dis Arcana.
Yeah, they are
I
kind of
really don't
yeah.
give a shit. Yeah, I really don't give a shit what makes what to get what. I just care about the end result. I look up, okay, what can I get from fusing? Okay, this guy looks cool. He has some cool abilities, some good magic, some good points. I'll take him. I don't care what I get what. I don't know the specifics because it's such a huge system and it's so confusing. What there's like tyrant, or is there like a demonic one, or there's like unique, different, special kind of demons, and I don't know what takes what to make what. But I just care about the end result. So if I see a demon I like, I'll get him. That's how it works for me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. The Arcanas are different than the race. I think it's the official title, the race, in SMT games. Now, there's one thing though that we're well aware of if you're listening and you're a hardcore Devil Survivor player. In Devil Survivor, each individual race has its own special ability. So, say some of them, they have the ability to move, which are the flying types. The avian, I know, they have winged flight, so they can get up to +6 range and they can move very far. Or some can move less but attack further on, like 2 or 3 spaces away. Or some can heal, some can debuff, all that stuff. And some can even attack twice on one turn, which, that's matchless. Those are very powerful. So if you have a matchless and you have a winged flight combo, I'm not saying, but that's pretty much breaking the game right there. that
Yeah,
is
and
that that
actually
is
some of those abilities are almost a necessity towards end game, like having flight demons or be able to attack from range is like almost very important towards like some of the later bosses. You almost kind of need it to win.
Oh no, definitely, especially the ranged one, I would say, because especially when you go on later in the game, the enemies you're fighting also get the ability to fight from range. And if you have the ability to fight back at range, they won't be able to just get cheap shots in. So you're at least protected and you can at least counterattack. So that is definitely recommended to have the. I think it's called Chaos Wave and Evil Wave, which are the one that allow you to attack 2 or 3 spaces ahead. Very very powerful, but you just lose some movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, there's that. There's the demon fusing, and then there's the demon auction and demon compendium, which leads us to two major systems, and we're saving the big one for last. But there's also the wonderfully OCD skill crack system, and I didn't really remember it from Devil Survivor 1 and 2, but holy shit, did I get did I get addicted to doing the skill cracking. So what skill cracking is your team leaders. So your demons, they learn their skills from inheritance and all that good stuff and whatever they learn on their own. But then you have your team leaders, your human characters. And if you go into at the beginning of a fight, you can go into the skill crack option and you can see which skills you are able to learn from anywhere on the field. I don't know if you guys have played Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. They had a sort of system in there as well where you can basically learn certain abilities from somebody. But here it is again, so skill crack. So say somebody has a fire spell, you just put skill crack with that particular human character, and if you are the one dealing the final hit on that character that has fire or agi in this case, you will learn that skill and you can then use it in next battles. So that's basically how it goes. You have 3 types. You have active spells, which are the attacking, the physical, and the magical skills. You have the passives, which are like increase HP, increase, MP, be protected against fire spells and all that good stuff. And then you have also the auto abilities, which is usually just a debuff or use less MP, and all that stuff. So it's a very interesting system because if you learn the right skills, especially in the beginning of the game, if you learn the elementals, the elementals like the Agi, Bufu, Zio, and Zan, which are your typical ones, your fire, ice, electro, and wind, you can create some very deadly combinations. So not cracking any skills will do yourself a major disservice when you're playing this game. It will become a lot tougher, or you can make it very easy if you just crack the right skills instead of the good combinations. And I got really, really addicted to it. I don't know how for you, but I really wanted to get them all, and right now I have them all. So you did a lot of skill cracking, right?
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Not as much as you. I didn't feel the need I had to get every skills, but I knew which one that was pretty important to have and was pretty powerful. And what I really love about this system, this is unique to Devil Survivor, and I think it just complements the strategy RPG element so well because having the skill crack, not only you get to learn these enemies' abilities, but you get to set them before battle. So each battle, you have like a preparation phase, and you get to look at the whole map and see what the enemies are, what they're weak to, and what their attacks are. So your party of the four characters, they have three slots for abilities they can use. They have three passive abilities, and I think there's the third one. It's like one slot. It's like an auto ability. And with each battle, they're so different. You'll fight enemies with different weaknesses and affinities. So you're not stuck with one ability. You're not stuck with Aji the whole game. You can change it to whatever you want at the beginning of battle, and I think that makes planning for all these battles much more fun. And if you die, you don't even have to grind for levels. You can switch up some abilities you crack, and it can be a whole, turn the tide on the battle completely. So I think it works really well in this strategy RPG setting.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's funny, I'm now on my new game +3, and I've learned all the skills last playthrough, and I still make the mistake of going into skill crack to see which skills there are to learn, because it's just second nature. You want to see what you can learn next to prepare, and it indeed adds a very nice layer of strategy in there. It also adds in the fact that you don't really want to rush. There's certain fights where you can it's just defeat the boss instead of defeating everybody. But if you want to skill crack, you go out of your way to make sure to leave the boss last, and or just sometimes it's the side characters that you have to crack, so you don't just rush the middle leader, because we didn't really tackle this. But if you defeat the leader in a uh, three enemy party, the, even if they have health left, the left and right automatically disappear because they are summoned, by the leader. So that's basically how it goes. So, um, that's a very very nice system, and everything.
Uh,
Yeah.
don't you just hate it? Don't you just hate it when you set a skill crack for one of the enemies and you do like a fire dance or something, and it kills like the boss and the other enemy, but not the one you're trying to crack, and you lose out on that skill? That happened to me so many times.
Yeah, I didn't do it that much in fear of me actually having that problem. So I tried to really just focus with attack and very concentrated attacks on that particular skill that I wanted to crack. It actually happened to me once. It happened to me in a different way, because basically it's the human character that you set it up to that needs to crack that particular skill. So in all my infinite wisdom, here I am on like the second to last day, where it's prayer. It's the absolute strongest healing skill. It heals your entire party completely, and it heals your status effects gone as well. So I thought that I had this skill cracked with everybody, because later on in the game, if you we'll talk about it, but you can unlock the fact that if you set it up to one person, both the main character and the others can crack it. It's called joint skill crack. Um, but the thing is, I killed the boss with the incorrect character, and it was a pretty tough fight. So I was like, I'm gonna redo it again, and I figured I'm probably gonna have another chance at prayer soon. That didn't happen until very late in Triangulum, so that was probably not the best choice, but it is an interesting system. That is, you got to be careful. If you want to learn some skills, then make sure you kill that particular enemy, or do it with the character that you need to crack it with.
Yeah, a lot of times I end up forgetting who's assigned to who as far as skill crack, and I send one of my units to kill him. It's like, oh crap, it was supposed to be Fumi or something that was supposed to kill him. So that happens to be quite a lot. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll get it the next time.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you can spot some very obvious ones that you want. Some healing skills or some elemental ones that you really like. But the auto ones, those can really make or break a battle, I would say. If you have the correct ones, it can make it considerably easier. Like at the end of my playthrough, I learned this one which is called Magic Yang, which is basically 50% of all the magic MP skills of your entire team. And that's the one that I use right now, still very late on. So all these super powerful, skills like Megiddo Laon and Prayer, Media Rahan, they just cost me just 20, 30 MP, which is nothing. So, that is, you can really sustain being attacked by a lot of enemies and heal up and damage. So it is skill cracking is a great system, and it just complements it all well together with just a great strategy, fights, and just all the demon fusing and demon auction, and demon compendium and skill inheritance, and it just works very well. You want to play it, you want to get better at it, and like we briefly touched upon in the beginning, it is not just battling and defeating all demons. Yes, that is the case for 60-70% of the game, but many versions, of very different events and fights actually offer something different. So, Danny, maybe you can touch upon some of the differences in the missions.
Yeah, so like you said, for the most part, it's gonna be kill the boss, kill this one demon. But a lot of times, how the game is set up, you're in kind of this post, kind of, I guess, during the apocalypse where everything's kind of messed up, things gone to shit, people are dying, civilians are turning against each other. Normal people are getting a hold of this demon summoning apps, and they don't quite know how to use them. So these demons kind of go out of control. So you have some missions where you save civilians or actually save your party members. I think we forgot to mention about this. Big part of the story is this app called Nicaea, where you get to see in the future, and you see one of your friends dying in a brutal way. So a lot of missions involve you saving your party members, almost kind of like Persona 4. You like the Midnight Channel. So you can draw a lot of comparisons from Persona 4 there. So a lot of them, like save your teammates before they die, let them escape, and or just buying time in general. So like it's paced very well, so it never seems tedious in any way.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That is definitely something. It's a nice variety in terms of the gameplay, and we'll talk about more about the characters and the death videos and stuff. But in terms of the actual mission objectives, I thought it was really fun. And where for me it became even better is, of course, in the actual Septentrion boss fights. So, we have this group of enemies called the Septentrions, set for 7. So there are 7 major boss fights, and they are very interestingly designed, but they all bring something interesting to the table when it comes to actually fighting them. So yes, the first couple of ones are a little bit easy, but like the third one already, that one actually splits into 2 halves, and you have to beat both halves before the other one can make a move. Otherwise, he'll just regenerate the other one. There is one that just if you defeat it, it splits into 2 smaller pieces, and that just keeps happening. And they kind of tie in the story in as well, where over multiple fights, you sometimes have to recruit certain demons, or you have to get a certain item that you can use in order to take down these Septentrions. And there's one where you have to split up your team and make sure to attack him from all sides. And there's really some good variety in terms of just the strategy element of these fights. And that is what I really liked, and it showed in the final boss fight as well, where you can make it as easy as you want to by just breaking it down into small pieces and then just going for the main part. And they really did it well. It really shows that it's more than just strategy RPG and just fighting wave after wave of enemies, but there's good variety in the battles, which adds in, which is probably going to be the part we're talking about soon, which is the story and characters. But gameplay wise, everything just really, really fits well together, and that's what makes this such an enjoyable game to play.
Yeah, I forgot to bring up the stats leveling up wise.
Okay.
When you level up, you allocate your stats. That's a huge part of the game as well. Um, so when you level up, you have one of four stats you can level up one at a time. You have attack or strength, vitality, which is your health, magic points, of course, your magic and MP, and lastly, agility. I think that affects your turn order or turn speed. I don't know how much that affects how many squares. Does that affect your squares too? How much you can move?
No, that was actually something I was disappointed by. I thought that every 10 points would get you another move, but that's actually not the case. It's just the attack order, and also the extra turn probability in a 3-on-3 turn-based fight.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, I thought it affected the square movement, but it didn't. So I was disappointed in that. But and that's why skill crack is important because when you level up, you don't get abilities. Abilities is only through skill crack. But when level up your points wise, you pick where you want to go. And I recommend going for either a strength or magic build. I You can agree with me, Mike. I don't recommend going evenly on both. I went for a full on out magic build where crazy amount of MP, magic damage is ridiculous. So my character usually mostly magic.
Yeah, no, exactly. So basically, out of these four stats, I leveled magic up to the fullest, and then worked on agility and then on vitality, and actually leaving strength. Just don't even put any point into strength, unless if you want to go physical build, then just put everything in strength and not put anything into magic. There can be set. There's something to be said for both. So I've been now on New Game Plus 3. I've always been a super magic user, so I am, when it's now at the super super high boss, I would say go with magic build. The only real final super boss I beat on my full magic build. There is the Triangulum super boss, which I still have to beat, which is considerably easy if you are a physical build, because as usual in a Shin Megami Tensei game, you have these attacks which are multi-attacks. So this is multi-hit, which does about 5 to 8 hits. And if you have that one with full physical build and all the physical super buffs that you need, you can basically destroy this boss in a couple of turns. With a magic build, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you don't really have the multiple attack magic attacks. So, there's something to be said there for physical, but that's only for the one and final true super boss of the game. Whereas I don't even want to know, it's going to be. I just prefer having my main character to be the full healer, to be able to heal my demons, and just be my demons, be the attacker. So I went with magic build, but most important, don't spend points in both because that is usually a waste.
Yeah, because the amount of skill slots you only have three, so it'd be kind of hard to balance both a physical and magic set of abilities. So it's better off to go one or the other. And the best part about Devil Survivor, if you need a slot for physical, you can always do that by having physical demons. You can have two physical demons if you like, if you need that ability for a boss, or one of your party members can be a high physical build like Jungo, but we'll get more into him later.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So, yeah, so gameplay wise, it's definitely, you can set it up and split it up in ways you want to. You can be very balanced with your characters and your demons. You can have physical demons where you have a magical character, but and we'll talk about this with the characters. It is a much easier game when you just go for the ultimates. So there are certain characters and team human characters that just have an ultimate stat. So I basically fought the entire game with the three characters that had the ultimate stat in Magic, and I fought with the one character that had the ultimate stat, which is 40 points on physical, so on strength. And you just add some good demons for them to complement them well, to be able to do the press turn system, to attack the weaknesses of the bosses, and that's where you usually just destroy everybody. Whereas and that actually shows because some of the later characters that join your party, some of these supposedly super powerful ones, they were actually pretty lame because they would have 20 points into strength and 20 points into magic. Great all around build, but I just want team 40. I just want team 40 is absolutely god tier, and that's the main character. That's Fumi, Otome, and Jungo. That is my OP squad right there. Team 40.
Yep. Yeah, my team build, I guess we can go to team builds now. It's pretty much the same way. You have like 12 to 13 characters to mess with, and they go in and out throughout the story, but for the most part, you get to play with who you want to play. And yeah, I pretty much have the same thing where I had, you know, Jungo as my main physical guy. He has, max strength by the end, just using Assassinate and Pierce, killing boss in one hit. He was super OP. Of course, Fumi with her high magic and just, doing holy dance and just killing everyone. And actually, my fourth slot is I never got an official fourth person. It's always first it was Io for a while. Then I messed around with Ari because she had high agility. I want to mess with her. Then Yamato was in there for a while, and I think I ended up sticking with Otome just because she had the max magic in the end. But the fourth party member I kind of had fun with.
I see. Yeah, yeah. For me, that's true. Some of the characters that we're talking about, they don't join until a couple of days later in. Otome is actually, I would say, the last of the normal characters to join you until you're like really late game and you can get some of the alignment characters. But it's a good way, and there's always backup characters. Now, one thing though, if I had to pick one thing that I really wish this game would have, and I don't know how much it bothered you, but because of the swapping of the human characters, you also had to swap their skills. So I had just setups for, so I had my main character, he had his skill sets, and then the second, third, and fourth character was always magic, magic, physical. So even if Jungo say had to be switched with Daichi, sure, no problem. But then the shitty part came in, whereas I needed to switch his skills from Jungo to Daichi, and that was never a really intuitive system. I much rather have had them add in like an option to just copy the entire set over. I don't know if you had trouble with that.
Yeah, like I said, since I mess around with my fourth party member a lot, so I would always have to be switching up my cracked skills to the new character. I did that constantly because some of these battles, some characters weren't playable because they're part of the plot or whatever. So I think Fumi missed a couple of battles and Otome was missing a couple. Um, so yeah, that was a little annoying. A copy and paste, to another character would have been preferred.
Oh, definitely. And if we're talking about kind of gameplay improvements, one thing I would love, especially now that I am on the New Game Plus, is if the L button would be, acknowledge or just, move on. So I cannot actually play it one-handed, which, there's all sorts of reasons why we would want to play one-handed, but in this case, it would just be very easy. So you can just select your commands and hit L to proceed. But now you actually have to hold the system with two hands. And when you're New Game Plus, it's just it's on auto read. I've seen these events, and it's just then you have to select an option. That's just a very minor thing that would have made it even better if it was in there. It's just a minor thingy, but sad that it isn't in there. But
Yeah, Yeah, going back to the battles again, like be cool. You can skip battles completely. Like you remember how Catherine had like where you max out a like a puzzle level, like you get like the gold trophy, you get to just skip the puzzle completely and just see the cutscenes. I wish there would have been something like that implemented in,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly,
so you can
exactly. That is
get all the
something
endings.
I
But that's a
I used a lot in Catherine actually to be able to do the other endings. I did all the endings just because I could skip all the gameplay. So that's a very good point.
yeah
I had it in SMT already.
yeah yeah, I would have never gotten all the Catherine endings if I had to do all the puzzles 8 times because there's like 8 endings in that one. So
Yeah.
yeah, not cool. But that's just us being too nitpicky. And I think I don't know we have much left to say about the battle, but the next thing I really want to talk about, I'm pretty excited. I really want to talk about the fate system,
Yes.
the new thing that's in Devil Survivor 2. You mind if I take the lead on this one?
Exactly. No, this was the big thing I was talking about. So, gameplay wise, this is of course part of gameplay, but in terms of the battle system, I think we've pretty much handled everything. So let's just drop right into Fate and story, spoiler free
Yeah,
for now, and characters, but go for it.
yeah. So the new thing that's was not in Devil Survivor 1 or Overclock. It's the fate system. And for those of you that are familiar with Persona 3 and 4 games, this is kind of a mechanic similar to that. It's a social system that you interact with your party team members, outside of battle, and they actually affect gameplay and actually in this one affect the end game story, which Persona 4 didn't quite do that, and that's what I really love about the Fate system. I want to see implemented in Persona 5. So how the Fate system works, during the game, you go through a 7-day period, and you have like a time, like a day-night cycle, where it's broken up into 30-minute increments. You have your mandatory story battles. You have your free battles, which does not take up any time, and then you have these icons on the map where you interact with your party members, to build up your fate. You have from level 1 to 5, and you get their kind of their backstory, what's going on with them in this, apocalypse torn world, and just get to a sense of who they are. And I really quite enjoy that. And during the progression, you can go up to level 5. Each level has its own perks. Level 1 with a character would would get you, I believe, like elemental affinity, like strong against ice or whatever. The second one, I believe it's joint skill crack. So if you set skill crack for both the party members, they kind of share it. So if one person didn't get it, the other one will. Third one, was it third one like a demon? You get like a special demon, Mike? I don't remember.
Yes, exactly. At the
Uh,
third level, you get a
yeah.
special one.
Third one is special demon. Fourth one, I didn't use that much. I think it's called SDTP. I forgot what it stands for, but pretty much you can send your own demons to help out like another party member across the map. Like let's say they're in trouble, they are out of demons to summon. You can send your own demons to save them, and vice versa. And last and fifth fate level is just another extra special demon. But yeah, that's briefly what the fate system is like, and that kind of affects the route and the ending of at least the Septentrion arc. What do you have to add about the fate system, Mike?
Yeah, no, the fate system is a really, really nice system, and it is pretty similar to the Persona 4 Social Link, and it's cut down a little bit. And I really liked it, especially for the fact that I started the Septentrion arc, and of course, to get the best neutral ending, you can already guess, of course, is that you have to have all your characters at a specific fate level, which is 4, uh, by pretty much the end of the last day, um, to be able to get into the super neutral true ending. So it's a very nice thing, and while there are definitely while this is one of the best cast of characters out there, except for one, which we'll talk about soon. But it is again, it's a great story. They learned a lot from Persona here as well, but again, each character has its kind of like own little story arc going on. Dealing with the whole apocalypse and the world ending, or with the things that are happening, and then there's some great parts, and the fate system really really works well. The rewards, though, the joint skill crack is great. The extra demons, yeah, haven't really messed around with that. I don't really think that, except for really late game, I really made use of some demons, and then the summon demon transfer protocol or something is actually what it stands for. That, didn't really use it. So the bonuses could have been improved a little. Um, and it's a great system. So you just have to, all the answers that you give during their events and also during the main story, that can get them fade up faster and stuff. So um, it is a great system. I really like seeing it, and I kind of like this social link aspect that is now sort of becoming a sort of standard in certain JRPGs. So great system.
Yeah, I think this came out after Persona 4, or at least the vanilla Devil Survivor 2 came out after Persona 4. They definitely took some notes from that, and actually, I think having it cut down by 5, it's almost better in a way. Doesn't it seem like in Persona 3 or 4, some of the minor characters, you really don't need it. You didn't need 10 social links. It seemed like it was a lot of filler. They're just hanging out, having a burger or something. I think when you have 5, it kind of cuts to the point. You get to the meat of their story, and that's pretty much enough, all you need. And for a setting like Devil Survivor, it's kind of made sense. It was only 5.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to be honest, it's not really 5, I would say, because not every event that you do from a certain character would level them up, especially some of the more alignment and the more special characters that took a little bit longer to grind them up. And that's actually, while I really like the system in Persona 4 with the social links, and in Devil Survivor 2 with Fate, the only thing that's kind of annoying is that you don't really see how many points a certain event gets you. So it's kind of like hidden, and there is a lot of, I would say, unnecessary tension for me, especially late in the game, where I had a couple of characters left to get to level 4, and I was like, man, am I actually able to do it? And then actually in the Triangulum arc, I had to get certain characters up to a certain level as well to be able to get the best Triangulum ending. And I actually didn't get it at first, and then I reloaded that entire day, and then I didn't get it again, and then I finally, at the fourth try, I was able to pull it off somehow. So I kind of would like to see like a sort of hidden point counter somewhere or something. Maybe that would make it too easy, but you know, especially if you're in New Game
Yeah,
Plus, so it would have been nice to see like a small little icon that there's. That's actually in X Blaze Code Embryo. Strangely enough, a visual novel by Arc System Works. They actually have it when you're in New Game Plus. You can actually see that this events would lead you to a certain path and stuff. But that would have been a nice bonus.
yeah, it's something I like to call invisible math, because I think there's a set amount of points you get for certain dialogue choices, and you never know what it adds up to. And like you said, it's pretty intense when you get closer to the end. You don't know if you're going to max it out or not. On Septentron, I think I maxed, or on a 6 day, I got everyone to level 4 with like 2 events to spare, so that was too close. And with Triangulum, I don't think you needed everyone at a level. You needed a few characters at a certain level, but you just never know if. So you're kind of forced to do certain events. But I'd say maybe consult a guide if you want to go for best true ending towards the end, at least for dialogue choices. I think for a blind playthrough, I think a lot of people can miss out on the true and neutral ending without consulting a guide.
Yeah, no, definitely. So uh, there are some guides out there that could help you out. You know, you know, not for Triangulum right now, but for Septentrion, there's actually an okay guide which I consulted, especially on the last 2 days, to make sure that I would get Fate 4 for everybody. But if you're really focused on Fate leveling up, and to do that, you have to be realistic and make sure that you do the story events quickly and kind of skip some of the optional boss fights that you get. There's actually this sort of side plot going on about this mysterious man that is roaming around. And actually, on my first two playthroughs, because I was so focused on Fate level, I could never do that. But now I'm actually on the third playthrough, so I just did these events. It's a nice little side story, which is actually quite interesting, as that character actually turns out to have a relation to two other characters. So that was actually a pretty interesting. And then another thing that we didn't really talk about is your characters can actually die. They can
Yeah,
actually
I was
die.
just about to bring that up.
Yeah,
I was
no,
just about to bring
exactly.
that up.
No, go for it. Have you had anybody die on your playthroughs? Because I didn't all my normal ones.
Luckily, no. And for those of you who haven't played it, give you advice right here. When you get these Nicaea videos, there's a story event that's like, okay, someone's about to die. We need to go save them. You don't have to save them right away. You can be late to the event and still do it, but they'll end up dying, which I didn't find out. But if there's a situation where you have to save someone, that's coming up, do it as soon as possible. Don't go do your fate events. Don't mess around. Just go do that story mission to save them. Because I think if you're late, I think for like the first one for Kada, I think you had to be at that station at a certain time. I think if you missed it, he'll die or something. So definitely make those your priority when it comes to missions. Just do them right away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just the battle that you have to do. Sometimes you have to do a certain. You will see it on when you're on the map of events to select. The fate ones always have like a character portrait next to it, but the main mission ones, they won't have it. So those are usually the ones that you want to select to proceed the story, and it's usually like we have to find a certain place, and you can get some information by doing that event, and that will put you on track. So the thing is, right now I'm actually on the new game, the third playthrough, and I just figured let's just try, and then I actually found out that you can actually let these characters die. So I the first character that you could actually you know die and not save is actually Kada, which spoiler, well, spoiler for me
He's a
personally,
fucking dick.
he's the most worst character in the entire entire set of characters. I would say he just adds absolutely nothing to the main story. He really has no interaction with any other character except for maybe Jungo. He sucks, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
so
he's like one of those characters who's an not. I guess you count this as spoilers or whatever. I don't care. You can count. He's one of those characters that's pretty much an asshole all the way with no redeeming qualities. Unlike a certain other OP character, Yamato, who's kind of a dick, but he's really cool. We'll get into that in the spoilers part. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Kata, nothing worth redeeming for him.
Yeah, he's a very one-dimensional character. Like i even in the Septentrian arc, it isn't really addressed. But he's like this very fighting, I'm on my own, independent character, and he's just there. And to actually have him die, I didn't care about. But then I was tempted to see how far I could take it. So then I let other characters die, and then it actually turns out that there is this sort of um, auto protection underwater auto protection system in where if you have certain characters die, then other ones will be automatically saved so that you can always have enough characters to beat it. So I was a little bit disappointed by it actually, because I would like to find out the worst route that you can take, so that you can actually just have you know no characters at all, maybe except for just your main character. But so you can have up to three characters dying until the alignment choice. So we'll talk about more in the spoiler part, but you basically have these days set up into the first 6 days, where it's usually just you recruiting your characters, and you fighting the Septentrions, and then at the sixth and seventh day it's usually your alignment choice, and then at the middle part of the seventh and the last day, that's where you get into the final route that you picked, and you have to do it to the actual bosses. So it's basically how the game is set up structure wise. But you can actually have your characters die. So don't it will lock you out of the true neutral ending that you can do, but don't worry, you can still do the other routes, because the characters that you can actually let die, they're set. So it's their death video. You have to save them, and not somebody else. So it's just a fun twist that they threw in there for me. That is now on, like I said, I beat the DS version. I did all the endings, and now I'm actually on my fourth playthrough again. So it's these fun little events that throw in there, and the events that you have to do, and the extra boss fights and all that stuff. It's um, the time management. It's very nice. So um, just from a pro tip, I would say there's 5 save slots. Save often. Keep a master save after each day. Once you beat a day, you are asked to save your progress. Save that on the 5th slot or something, and then just alternate between a couple of hours or a couple of events, maybe after each battle. Save it and just mess around with the fate system. If you're unhappy, just hit LR and start. You will do a soft reset. You can reload your game, and you know be smart. Don't lock yourself out on like the 6th day, and you have to lose a character because you've only been using one save game. They are there. Use the 5 spaces. It will save you potential failure just because you select a different slot.
Yeah, like Mike said, definitely I use all the 5 save slots. I kind of wish there was like 20 or 30, like in Persona 4 Golden, because I definitely filled all that up. Because I save like so often. I want to see if I can change the outcome of anything if I messed up. I had one master save on the 6th day. For those of you who want to go for all the endings, but maybe don't want to reload and play the whole Septentrion arc, if were able to get all your characters to Fate 4, go and say, because there's like this point where you make a decision. It's like your alignments, whatever. It's pretty obvious once you get there at the end of the 6th day. So you can save there, reload, and get all the other endings, and you would only have to play the one final day. So that's an option.
Yeah, exactly. That is how I did it in on the DS version. So on the DS version, I could actually do it that way, where I just extracted the save file or put it on my hard disk because I had a flash card, being evil and all that stuff. But with the multiple saves, that's how I did it actually this time around as well. I had that master save. I never really used it because I got so addicted in doing the titles, and because you can actually reload your master save and then get the bonus points. You really have to go through the entire game again, but you could technically do it. I've done it on a DS, and that's actually a very good way if you want to see the different endings and all that great stuff. So definitely recommend it to just use those saves. Um, so yeah, what's actually left before well, besides story and characters, anything you want to touch upon before we talk a little bit non-spoilers about the characters, and then just say goodbye and let's go into full spoilers.
I think we were over an hour here of just non-spoilers. I think we covered most of them. And if we want to talk about characters and story, I think it'd be more fun to just go spoilers. So we'll just do that in the next part. You want to just, clothing thoughts on Record Breaker and maybe this port in particular for you?
Yeah, so Record Breaker is a absolutely fantastic port because the content-wise, it's just really great. We haven't. We're going to be talking about it probably more in the spoiler section. It doesn't really add in, but the voice acting is really great. There's voice acting for everybody. Just even like small little events where you're like, well, it's probably just a side event. It's voice acted, not like non-playable characters. That is really great. Like I mentioned, the Septentrion arc is already great on its own. The true ending, neutral ending of the Septentrion already back in the day, 2012, gave me a great feelings. But then Triangulum just came on top of it, and it's great. And just, I really enjoyed Record Breaker. You guys have heard it for about an hour now. The gameplay works really well. The fate system, the characters, the overall story of having these groups of characters in about 8 days having to survive in Tokyo, and this time not actually only Tokyo but also other places in Japan. So just everything fit really well together. Very likable characters, for the most part. Very different personalities as well. And we'll talk more in the spoiler part. That there's some really fun, lighthearted moments as well. So in general, it's just a really really great game, great strategy RPG, and I'm very happy to say that Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker has become my favorite strategy RPG of all time, eclipsing the likes of Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, Fire Emblem Awakening, Valkyria Chronicles, and then actually the one under it is actually the original Devil Survivor 2. So it's just it's an absolutely fantastic game. I'm about 70 hours in. I've been playing it for been playing multiple routes. I want to do all the compendium. I want to get all the titles before I move into Overclocked. So just great moment, great port. I'm very happy that Atlas released it. So pick it up when it's maybe cheaper if you want to, but you're gonna have a lot of fun with the fantastic Record Breaker.
Yeah, and for to those who are listening that have only played Devil Survivor 2 Vanilla, could you recommend this title to them, Mike, having played the original one to death? Maybe just a Triangulum arc alone and the added bonuses. Do you think this is a worthy pickup for people who've already played Devil Survivor 2?
If you've already beaten Devil Survivor 2, yes, definitely check out this game. Maybe wait for the price to drop until it's maybe $20 or $30. Um, but if you really enjoyed Devil Survivor 2, and like I did, I just started again with play Septentrion Arc again because I kind of was lost on the story a little bit. It's just again, it draws you in. It's not a very long game. Just Septentrion Arc can last you about 35 hours, and probably if you put it on blast the entire playthrough, you can maybe get through it in maybe 25 or something. But the Triangulum Arc, I haven't done all the endings, but the true Triangulum Arc ending was really, really good. And we'll talk more in the spoiler part because there's one specific character that is really new for the Triangulum Arc. You've probably seen her on the cover of the game as well, but we'll talk about more. Definitely pick it up, regardless if you've already played it. This is a really worthwhile port. I can't really mention Overclocked versus Record Breaker because I haven't done the 8th day. It's just the eighth day and some demons that they added in plus voice acting. I have to see how I feel about just the Overclocked content versus the Record Breaker content, but it's great. Triangulum Arc. It could have been a standalone game and they could have sold it, no problem at all. So definitely pick it up. Great game for the 3DS.
Yeah, and I can pretty much mirror everything you just said about Record Breaker, and I can get into Overclocked. This might be a personal bias, but I think Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker is an overall improvement in every possible way. I thought the characters were much more likable and interesting. I thought the story and the plot took some more interesting turns. The battle system, I think, was more refined. The inclusion of the fate system made everything very intuitive and more fun. Like I said, the Triangulum Arc is a great addition to this package already. 8th Day was fine in Overclock, but I think it was definitely overshadowed by the main story. It was, actually, not all endings get the 8th day, and like I said, it's very short, maybe 10 to 15 hours, while Triangulum is like 15 to 30, depending on how you play. So overall, Record Breaker is the much better complete package. And as far as recommendations go, I say if you've never played a SMT game, I think there's almost no better place to start. I think both these Devil Survivor games are excellent. I think they're not too difficult. They don't have the crazy negotiation system that's kind of confusing for me, and I think it just retains the core of SMT. You have your demon fusing, which is really important. You have your alignments, neutral, chaos, law. That's part of SMT. So I think it's the perfect beginner SMT game for anyone, and also a great bridge game for those of you who maybe have only played Persona 3 and 4 and might be feeling too intimidated by mainline SMT. See how Devil Survivor is. You have your fate system, which is like S-Link, so maybe there's some familiarity with it there. So I definitely recommend either game. We already talked about this earlier. They're not really related, so you can pick either one, and really enjoyed it. But overall, my favorite SMT game so far, not counting Persona 3 and 4, definitely number one, Devil Survivor 2, number one strategy RPG game ever, and game of the year. So I sing the praise of this game. It's definitely worth the wait. I know we're probably hyping it too much for you guys, but it truly is great. It's the best DS RPG you can get. It's a must own if you have 3DS. No excuses, just buy it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Of course, take it with a grain of salt. You guys should be aware of how much of SMT and Persona fans, you know, Danny and I are. So, of course, we praise these games, but there's a reason we praise these games because they are just so fucking good. They are just really well thought out, and it won't come to anybody as a surprise that for the third year in a row, again, I have an SMT game as my game of the year. And it's going to be a very interesting year to see which one is actually going to top it. Of course, the big one is the actual Persona 5, and there are some great other games coming up, but I really don't see anything else touching this one except potentially for Persona 4 Dancing All Night and Persona 5. So, regardless, I feel that there's going to be an Atlas game as my game of the year. But like you said, it's a great bridge game. If you really only play Persona, this is just a perfect. This is it's kind of like an alignment system. If you have Law Persona, and you have SMT Chaos, then in the middle you have the neutral. It's Devil Survivor. It's the perfect blend of both series, and check it out. It's definitely worth your time, if not alone for the fantastic story and cast of characters and some OP waifus.
Oh, absolutely. So I think it's a good point to bring this podcast to a close. I want to thank you so much, Mike, for joining me. In case those of people who listen who don't know who you are, where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my main channel, which is Arrow Dynamish. I'm sure that there's a link below. I usually do videos about JRPGs, visual novels, and of course showcase my pretty nice video game collection. I do a lot of series collecting, so I collect all four of these JRPGs and visual novels. So you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook where I have my wall, and then the big thing is of course RPGibberish, which is the RPG podcast that I host with the Wanderer from the Past, who used to be known as RPG Swagman, where we talk about RPGs. Some of you might already be listening on this on RPGibberish. Some of you might be listening it on Danny's channel. So yeah, you can find me there, and I guess the spoiler part is going to be for RPG Gibberish fans only.
Yep. So if you guys want to listen in more on the spoilers and the waifu talk, hop over to that channel. I'll leave the link whenever that's available down below, and links to Mike's channel as well. It's been a lot of fun. I plan to do many more of these. I already have one recorded for Witcher 3, which will come out probably later once more people beat it, if they beat it ever. But anyway, guys, it's been fun. Definitely leave comments down below what you think. Have you played Devil Survivor 2? Do you plan to? I want to thank you so much for listening, and see you guys next time. Bye.
Alright, so for those who stuck around here, this is going to be the spoiler part for Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. And basically what this is it's just going to be about, talking about the different endings, talking about the alignments, and also talking about the characters and some of the fun events that we had. We didn't really talk about it that much about the cast of characters so far, but like I mentioned, I feel that this is definitely one of the best cast of characters out there. It's a very, very diverse cast with all these different stories that they go through, and except for, of course, Keita, which is at the end remains to be one of the most one-dimensional characters in both Septentrion arc and the Triangulum arc. It's pretty much an entirely well-rounded cast of characters that bounce off very well with each other. There's sort of groups forming and stuff because some of the characters are from a specific city, so they base it on that. And there are just good stories brewing with each character and a couple of groups, and especially with the alignments and everything, that just really mesh well together. So that's something that I really liked. And just to touch upon it a little bit more, when I always compare Devil Survivor 1 with Devil Survivor 2, I just get lost because I feel that the Devil Survivor 1 characters are so similar to Devil Survivor 2. Like, Yuzu, that's Io, and then you have Atsuru, of course, that's Daichi. But because I have such a more strong connection with Devil Survivor 2, I just instantly think of the Devil Survivor 2 counterpart. It's been a very long time since I played Devil Survivor 1. I read through the art book once, that I had for Devil Survivor 1, where I was like, oh yeah, these are these characters, but you know, I believe there's just like a Hinako character as well, and then there is another Keita character, and Yamato is obviously Naoya and all that stuff. So the cast is way too similar. I don't know how you feel about that, Danny, but it's so similar.
First of all, Kata's a fucking cunt. uh, n- Now that that's out of the way, to a certain degree, I would agree. A certain degree, I would agree with you there. I think Yuzu, I don't know, she's very shallow and plain to me. What I guess design wise and initially, she's that kind of main female character with the your main character. But I think Io goes for a much more interesting story development and arc. She had an internal struggle where she's kind of and is and you see her journey throughout the game in both arcs and how she learned to speak up for herself and not be afraid to voice her opinion. She kind of has to agree with everyone because she's too afraid. So I really like that because I kind of can relate to that in a little bit, being a shy person myself. So I really like Io's journey, and I thought Daichi was much more cooler than what's his name from DS1.
Atsuru?
Um, Atsuru, yeah, they present him as your buddy, your Yosuke, pretty much. Your Yosuke or Junpei. It seems like your best buddy in all these S17 Persona games are kind of alike on the surface. But I think Daichi has a lot of courage, and he really tries to prove himself. He has that memorable scene with the truck and running into the Dube ice cream. But I don't know, just overall, yeah, just on the surface initially, even design wise, they might come off as similar as DS1 characters, but the more you understand them and once you play Triangulum, I think they have more chance to blossom and grow and be much more likable overall.
That's what I love so much about Triangulum, is because it just carries onward after a little bit of a stumble in the beginning, because now we're getting into the full spoiler. So Triangulum, once it starts, some of the characters, it just continues on, and Triangulum starts as, it's not based upon any ending in the Septentrion arc. It's kind of similar to the true ending, but with added stuff that is, it's tough to explain. It's not really a Septentrion ending, but it's the true Daichi neutral ending plus some anguished ones, Alcor, all Psyduck added stuff in there. That's actually that gets you into the Triangulum arc. So they restore the world, they mess with the Akashic records, and then it's time. They just, the story just picks up again, and then the characters go to school and they find out that there's a new threat. It happens again. It cycles, and now there's this Triangulum. And what I really liked about it is that once the characters get their memories back, which that's the stumble a little bit. It took a little bit too long for all the characters to kind of get their memories back. It was after you saw that 3 times, I was like, yeah, all right, I got it. But it went by really fast. Every character just adds on a layer of character development, and they have more fates to build upon. And I only did Triangulum once so far, and I didn't get rank 5 with everybody yet in Triangulum, so there's still more events that I gotta read through. But I just really like, and especially if you add it with the endings, every story for each character basically came to a good end, except of course for that fucking cunt who just ends up being like a box champion or some bullshit. What's up with that?
Yeah, yeah. What a stupid. I don't know. Even you know his fate in Septentron. I never understood him completely as a character. Why does he hate everything and wants to kill everything? I just never understood that part about him. But the overall Kata is just. I guess they put so much effort into all the other 12, 13 characters. There had to be one rotten egg in the bunch.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like in the Septentrion arc, once you recruit him, he's just this tough guy, solar kid. But never in the entire Septentrion or the Triangulum arc is there any reason given why he is like that. It's not like you find out like that you find out that he lost his little kid or little brother or somebody or his big brother or his family or some stuff like that where you're like, oh, now I understand why you are this way, that you had to live on the streets and fend for yourself. But they never added that in there. He's just a keeps being a very one-dimensional character um, throughout the entire game, and he sides with Ronaldo, I think. I
No, I
think.
think he went with Yamato because Yamato wanted like a society where the
Oh
people
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
skills or are strong should lead. So he's definitely for that.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're true. Because he was dead in my current playthrough, I kind of forgot about that. But so he just
Yeah.
and then it shows in the Septentron ending where everybody gets like a nice combined. You have the Io and Daichi and the main character paired up, and you have Irie and Hinako paired up and all that good stuff. But Keita was just on his own, and just in Triangle, he's just in that fucking limo on his own, being like a box champion. It's kind of sad that he's just like the loser character in an obviously fantastic cast of characters. So let's not talk about that, Keita anymore. But let's actually
Yeah,
just
we're talking about him too much.
yeah,
He's getting
it's
too much a spotlight here.
we already talked about him more than you'll actually play with him in the entire game, and you would probably think that, oh, he's this tough boxer character, he's like super strong or something, but actually he's the second strongest fighter character in the game, because there's a much OP physical fighter, and that is Jungo, because Jungo actually has 40 stat 40 up until like level 60 or something, whereas Keita just he's he's not even the strongest. So what the fuck's up with that?
Yeah, I remember once I got Jungo, I remember seeing his stats like, oh man, he has really high attack. He's definitely gonna be in my team, and he never left after he joined my group.
Oh yeah, no, especially when I was still struggling. Now it doesn't really matter anymore on New Game Plus, but he got me out of so many tough situations where it's just assassinate and pierce, and he would just come in and destroy. So he's very powerful. So let's actually talk about Jungo a little bit. So Jungo is this very kind-hearted savior type of character that you meet when you're in Nagoya. Originally paired up with Irie, but later on in the game, I feel that Irie is more paired up with Hinako. So Jungo is kind of
Yeah,
on his own character, but he has two things that I like a whole lot about him. That's the fact that he's like a cook, so he had a top upbringing, and he learned, and he's training to become the chef, and he is always trying to get people to eat his chawanmushi, which when I was in Japan, man, when I was in Japan, we would get these meals, and they would always put chawanmushi on the table, and I just couldn't do it. I don't like chawanmushi. It is not for me. So,
okay, I was about to ask you that because I didn't try it when I was in Japan, but seeing it in the game kind of want to make me to try it. It looks really good, but I get the sense that all the other characters weren't interested because you kind of try to shove it in everyone's face. So I guess that's true in real life as well. Is it a dish specifically from Osaka, or is it available throughout Japan?
no, it's available throughout Japan, and it's usually like a side dish, and it is. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It is not like it's very gross or there's some crazy ingredient in there, but it's kind of like jello or pudding, but it's like savory.
Like
So
seafood pudding.
yeah, it's like seafood pudding. So they put
Yeah.
like vegetables in there, and maybe some have chicken or some have seafood, but it's also warm. So it's my brain just couldn't connect with it. So it was just like, I just wanted to be sweet or something like pudding, which we do eat in the Netherlands. We do have pudding, and you put nuts in it or stuff. But so I didn't really eat a lot of the chawanmushi, and usually my friend who I was traveling with, to be, we would just sneakily trade the chawanmushi, so it didn't look like I was, being an asshole or something. He would eat it, but it was, despite me not liking the dish, it was a really nice personality trait, because he would just show up out of nowhere, and he's like, people were fighting, and it's like, but here's my chawanmushi, just enjoy. And he would try to make it, and that's something I really liked in the Triangulum arc. I don't know if you had it, but in the Triangulum arc, he would just be continuously trying to improve his chawanmushi, and some other characters would just pass him ingredients to use, which those were some ridiculous ingredients like special energy tablets, medicine, or like this super strange, soda drink. I think that was really
Oh yeah,
really
that wasn't
hilarious.
a running. Was it at a running joke throughout the whole game with Daichi and that drink? Yeah, I remember that. That,
Yeah,
that special
exactly.
drink.
Yeah, no. So that was a lot of fun,
So
and
let,
go for it.
let me ask you this about Jungo. Since you played the original Devil Survivor, overall, I thought the voice acting throughout the whole game was great. But for some reason, I don't know, Jungo's voice was totally different than what I expected. Just based on his character design, I thought he was gonna have this deep voice, this kind of real manly kind of voice. But it was like very, I don't know, it's very funny
Hmm.
how it came out.
I
What
never
do you
really
think?
really thought about it. It kind of fits. He has a soft spoken voice. It's a little bit different, but if you compare it to, say, a certain asshole who has this very a tough sort of voice, I think it kind of fits. It kind of fits. I can't really remember my initial thoughts when I went into the game, like what is this voice going to be. Um, so I don't actually know if I don't think it's actually the case. No, I've watched it in Japanese, so never mind. No, there's also the anime adaptation of Devil Survivor 2, which I watched in like a day or something a couple of
Yeah,
years ago. But
I,
it was in
I don't
Japanese.
know. Just based on seeing his sprite and he was a chef, I just imagine having this grand voice. Hello, would you like to try some Shawan Mushi? Or just a deeper voice like that. He kind of had a small like I would compare it to like Mike Tyson or something. You wouldn't think Mike Tyson would sound like that. So
Yeah,
that's my brief thoughts on him.
yeah, no,
But
exactly.
overall, actually Jungo is the most popular male character I think in Devil Survivor 2 based on a poll, either first or second, which is really surprising. I didn't think people liked him that much.
Oh, that's actually I'm not surprised, because I would say that main character Yamato, Daichi, even that's would be higher than that. Maybe even Anguished One if they count that as male, but that's nice.
Yep.
That's nice. But he's a great character, and being a cat. No, I have cats myself. I thought that the sub story he had with the cat, in the
Yeah.
Septentrian arc, that was actually really heartfelt. He trying to save this cat
Yeah.
who, I don't know, but in his infinite wisdom, he thought it would be a good idea to name this cat or kitten, name it Jungo as well, which you
Did you
know
did you pick that choice? I had to pick that choice. I had to.
I
When
picked
when you
that
get
choice because he brought it up himself. You could name it Cookies or Button, but he said, let's name it Jungo, and Otome was like, but won't that
what the
be
fuck?
confusing because you're Jungo? And he's like, no, I think it fits. And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, we'll call him Jungo. But that was actually, once it opens up to the later day, and them trying to save it and then trying to set it free again, that was actually very heartfelt. So he is definitely one of my favorite characters in the game, because he had the great stories, great humor, being a very useful character in the party as well, in the battles, and I just overall one of my favorite characters would be Jungo.
Yep, absolutely agree. Probably my top three and four male characters. Definitely very likable.
Yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
do you want to just go down the list here and talk about every single character because I have them all here. Ready to
Yeah,
go.
no, yeah. Just break it down into groups. I would say, go for it. Who do you want to talk about next?
You want to just get like the the main ones out of the way, like the your beginning. Let's talk about the protagonist. There's a lot quite to say about him as well. He's pretty interesting, even for a silent protagonist.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. Go for it.
So what I really like about I think his official I think there is an official name Hibiki Kuze. At least that's what the anime is called him. So that's what I named him in my game. So we'll call him Hibiki for the sake of whatever continuation. But overall, he has that silly bunny hoodie thing, which I find really cool. So main protagonist, yeah, Hibiki. I find him quite interesting, especially his dialogue choices. You have your nice guy option, then you have kind of like your asshole option. But then there's like a third dialogue option that's kind of like your troll mode. You're just kind of being super silly and just kind of out of the blue. And for the most part, if you pick that, you're gonna piss people off. But I think it's pretty funny to have that for you. I think that kind of fits his character very well. He's just kind of silly about everything. I don't know. I thought Hibiki's a funny character.
Oh no, definitely. I really liked his design, with his haircut and that white hoodie that he's wearing. But some of the dialogue options that you can pick were actually really hilarious just to see them. Some I think would is is definitely Atlas USA just adding in some nice, some nice, meme-like answers in there. But in general, I just really like the fact that how he handled the situation. And what I really like from the options as well is you basically had the option to kind of be very smart and like you knew it all in advance. For me, as I already played the DS version, there was a lot of options in there where he would like agree with like the super smart characters or like Yamato and stuff
Yeah.
that he would say like, oh, so it's like the Septentrians, they're from the stars or something like those types of answers. Very intelligent answers, knowing in advance, and then sometimes very smart remarks and just fun jokes. So that is definitely something that I really enjoyed. It's always sad to see that they are indeed a silent protagonist, that he doesn't even speak the option you pick. But that's how it that that's just the standard how it goes in the games. I can't really remember him from the anime. Like I mentioned, I've watched the anime back in 2013, I think. Very quickly, right after the Persona 4 one, I just turned it all, watched all 13 episodes. So I think I'll watch it again and see how his voice acting is. But it's a good main character. And again, comparing it to the main character from Overclocked, I'm just drawing a blank. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to see how well they balance off each other and are different. But very solid main character.
Yep, absolutely. And surrounding him, we got this game's Yosuke or Junpei Daichi. What do you think about him?
Oh yeah, Daichi. He was actually he had a really good voice actor actually. It really fit his character well. Kind of like a more yeah, how would you say, the more just like straightforward, just a dude type of voice. And he's your very very your good friend of you. Whereas again in Overclock, the Atsuru, he's more like your technological friend. Daichi is just more like this buddy trying to put you on. So he's kind of in the middle between like a Yosuke and Atsuru and stuff. But what I really liked about him is, he's very clumsy. He stumbles into events most likely, but he's always courageous. He always tries to put himself out there, trying to make it better, trying to improve, help others, and kind of also, but also at the same time struggling with what is happening and the world coming to a close. Sometimes he has these panic moments. So he's kind of like this, you know, tragic hero, sort of say, where he's just at some point he just accepts it, and he is actually in the later parts of the game actually who just says, I don't believe into Ronaldo's or into Yamato's route, and the Daichi route ends up being the neutral route, and for eventually, overcoming all odds and putting everybody together. So, great character, a little bit of a perv at some time. He really tries to hit on Makoto in the beginning. He had that unfortunate, incident with the secret garden, and then later on in Triangulum, he for some reason really was hitting on Hinako, who actually, if you do the ending, kind of seems to be like they would end up with each other actually. So, but he's a very fun
Yeah,
character.
yeah, how Triangulum presented it did seem like they were shipping his character and Miyako. Seemed like they're like uh, the couple, kind of like the default couple in a way, because he kept calling her, was it Miyako-chan or something like that, and she gets embarrassed,
Yeah,
and they had that moment at the end. So it did seem like they're setting something like up for him. And I think Daichi's just one of the more relatable, characters in the game. He's just overall good guy. He's clumsy, like you said. He's kind of a perv, but then he's has his good moments, and kind of like a hybrid of a Yosuke and Junpei in a way. So I think he was a good fit for your as your best buddy. So I really like Daichi.
yeah, no, definitely. It's
And
very good character. And then we have of course the third character, which is let's not you know let's just get two things out of the way first. Them titties are big and ridiculous. I don't know what gravity is around that one.
man, something about the character design in this game. It seemed like all the girls' titties are trying to escape their shirt. They're like pointing up and like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah, it's a very distinctive
uh,
style by Yasuda as the character designer. He also did like the Durarara anime and manga series, and he's so good that just his art style sold me on a game, which is Caladrius Blaze, which is a shmup, because he did the artwork for it.
okay.
And that one is actually pretty similar as well. He makes the most ridiculously big shaped boobies that have no gravity at all. And EO, you know, wow, just I gotta get that waifu figure, man.
Yeah. Well, despite her, built-in flotation device, I thought Yo was a pretty interesting character. I really quite like her a lot. She's not my favorite, character in the game. She's my third or fourth favorite, but I think I really like her development. In the beginning, she starts off as just your typical, whatever uh, default female girlfriend, whatever. Maybe your Yukiko or your Yukari, you would say. But I think throughout the Triangulum or Septentron and Triangulum arc, she does have this trouble of trying to speak up and being too shy to voice her opinion, and always kind of siding or agreeing with someone instead of saying what she truly believes. And you definitely see, if you do Hall or Fate events, she definitely comes to her own. And I really like her story. And she did lose her mother or her family, and that was a pretty sad moment at the beginning too.
That was a very sad moment, and that was actually one of the sadder moments in the game. Pretty early on like day three or something, where she's helping out in this hospital, and then they bring in her mother, and you kind of see her kind of breaking down, and that was actually a very touching moment. And just in general, she also has to go through. At some point in the game, they have to summon this demon, and she ends up being the only one compatible. And there's a huge risk that she might die for it. And she's brave enough at some point to just accept that and go for it. And of course, if your fate level is high enough, because I haven't had it happen to me, but some people mentioned that they did have EO die during the lose summoning process.
Oh, she could die? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she could die if her fate level is under 3. So it's actually pretty tough to get her to die, but so that is a possibility. But she went through that. But what I really liked as well, is the fact that she's always there for the main character, and she's kind of like the love interest, and her responses to the main characters kind of like uh, I like you comments, or like the romantic type answers that you could give. Her surprising reactions to it and her shyness to it. That's actually what I really enjoyed about it. But yeah, she's a fun character, and again, it's your default waifu. I would say that is usually, for me personally, that ends up being the great character, waifu character as well. Um, she's in the top regions for sure, but she's not ultimate waifu of this game. But very solid story wise main characters, love interest, and she goes through a great journey.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have Big Boss of GIPs, not JPs, because I watched the damn Devil Survivor 2 anime in English. They call it JPs, and that just pissed the heck out of me.
Oh my god!
So annoying.
Oh, now I
And
wonder
they
if
called
they
Nicaea,
actually.
they called Nicaea instead of Nicaea. They call it JPs and Nicaea. Like, oh no.
I wonder if Atlas USA actually added that in there as a joke, like, it's chips and it's Nicaea, to harp on the anime. I didn't know that. I watched it in Japanese, but yeah. No,
Yeah.
anyway, you're probably going to talk about Yamato, right?
Yeah, but yeah, just a quick side tangent on the anime. I'm usually the defender of English dubs. I thought the Record Breaker dub was excellent overall, but man, that Devil Survivor 2 anime was awful. It was terrible. None of them fit their characters. I only watched like 5 episodes. I don't even think I can finish the rest in English. I'll have to turn into Japanese, and I never do that. I always listen to English all the way. But yeah, it was pretty terrible. So if you go from that to this game, I don't see why you should complain about the voice acting in the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I just watched it in Japanese, so can't remember the voices.
Yeah. But anyway, Yamato, young chief of Gyps, who like you said, he comes off as like a Naoya. Like I thought he was gonna be like the main villain at the end, in a way. But overall, between the two arcs, I thought he becomes a quite interesting character and much more likable towards the end, despite being a kind of a huge asshole.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So in the Septentrian arc, he is pretty much the scheming, typical law type, alignment, enemy. You know, he's the leader of Gyps, and he puts you onto certain events, and then later on he has his own view. But when you go into Triangulum, and that's what I liked most about him, is you go through Triangulum and he's just isn't there. He's replaced with Miyako, who's kind of like his female counterpart and runs the whole show differently. Where it's basically the same world, just different enemies and stuff, but he isn't there. And then once you actually realize that Yamato is actually in the Triangulum arc as well, and he was kind of trying to save the whole situation with the main character not disappearing, he really steps up and becomes a much more important character and a much more likable character as well, where he just he really grows in Triangulum. And again, this if you're still here and you are one of the group that played Devil Survivor 2 and were interested to play Record Breaker, I will have now just spoiled Triangulum for you. But this is one of the reasons why I said to you specifically by Record Breaker, because some of these great characters can take a whole different level in the Triangulum arc, where it's just their continuing character development. And Yamato is a great character. The only complaint I kind of have is that his character design looks in his 20s, or at least he looks a lot older than the main characters, but he's actually younger. So there's a little bit of a mismatch for me there, but uh, just a great typical leader born into saving human race power type of character. He really
Yeah,
fitted well.
yeah, and unlike Keita, they explain his backstory better, and you see why he looks down upon people, and he does have his view of the future, but he's the kind of guy that the end justifies the means and looks things in the bigger picture. Just not every individual detail needs to be taken care of, but definitely in Triangulum, I kind of missed him a lot. He was not available till like halfway through that arc, and I was like, man, I really missed this guy. Once he showed up, and he was such a badass, in that whatever digital world, killing all those alien things. It was like, oh, kick ass, he's back. And then you got him back, and he didn't have his was it called Dragon Slayer abilities,
Dragon
or what
Stream.
was that called? Um, Dragon Stream, yeah, and he didn't have that, but once he got that back, he was just kicking ass and taking names again, and I kept him in my party just because I liked him, not because he was the best character to use, but yeah, he definitely grew, definitely in Triangulum became a much more likable character.
Yeah, definitely. No, no, great stuff. So, let's see. Let's talk a little bit. Let's delve right into his counterpart in Septentrion, which is Ronaldo, or Ronaldo Kuriki. So, Ronaldo, he starts off as this detective trying to, you know, be like the voice of the civilians and trying to fight off against Gyps, and Yamato. And especially in the middle of September, and he goes through this whole arc of him fighting, trying to find his lost partners, who is goes by the name of Dara Deka. So this is the guy I'm actually talking about. You have the ability to interact with this Dara Deka in a couple of events, but if you're very focused on Fate, it will be very hard for you to actually to pull that off. Ronaldo is talking about his lost partner, and it actually turns out that the guy is actually still alive, but he's hiding. But in any case, so Ronaldo is kind of like the one who is he is basically the first real asshole in the game, except for Kato, who always is an asshole. But Ronaldo tries to attack Gyps a couple of times. Try to come in with civilians, trying to set up the Gyps versus civilians type of thing. Um, but again, even though Ronaldo wasn't really that much into Triangulum, I think he really goes into a nice story development as well once he actually has his own route, which I'm currently on right now, where he's trying to fight for equality and trying to protect the weak, which is a very admirable thing to do and a very tough thing to do. It's something that I would say, is always unobtainable for humanity. But Ronaldo, he's a nice character. Very unfortunate name though, because I'm a football player, football fan, and we all know what a dick the real Cristiano Ronaldo is right now. So, you know, Ronaldo Kuriki, yeah, it's a he's not as awesome as Yamato, I would say. He's just a solid character that's there, but admirable, but nothing really special. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, same here. I thought he was an interesting character. Definitely not one of my favorites. Definitely kind of like the compliment or the opposite of Yamato. Interestingly enough, just to go back to Yamato back and forth here for a second, with the whole law and chaos thing, did it seem like both characters can be either law or chaos? Because it's very very gray in a way where it's like, okay, so Yamato wants this whole structured uh, society with like the more superior or more OP people get to rule, and that's a very law way of thinking about things. Wouldn't you agree? But then he's presented as the chaos character because he seemed like the bad guy,
Yeah.
and with Ronaldo, he supposedly is the good guy who's trying to fight for equality and to get everyone on the same playing field. At the same time, he goes about it in a chaotic kind of way where he's just rebellion and go against an organization. So these two characters can be either to me. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. There is definitely something to be said for that. You know, they balance off in terms of alignment, balance off very well, nice to each other. So there's that. I'm playing through the Ronaldo right now. I have never played. That's actually the only route I've never done so far on either DS or 3DS. It's the Yamato route. But he's just a solid character, that is just there. Never really used him in battle. Never really cared that much about him. Yeah, but he's definitely not one of the worst characters.
Nope, he's okay. All right. Let's move on to another male character. Actually, my favorite one, Mr. Yuzuru Ake, or I just call him Joe. What a goofball that guy is. I love Joe. He's my number one favorite male character in the game.
Interesting. Because Joe, well, he's one of the first characters that joins you when you're in Tokyo, and he is hilarious. He is a great silly character who just doesn't give a fuck at all. He just stumbles around, comes late to shows, makes jokes all the time, doesn't really take it serious. But I was kind of turned off by Joe when I was starting to do his fate events because it turns out that he is actually he has this girlfriend he's taking care of who is in the hospital, and he is really struggling to come to grips with that, which is understandable, of course. But he's a very avoiding character, and that made me not like him that much. So he was just using his laid back attitude and his humor to just to avoid the serious situations that were going on, and I was kind of put off by it. From my perspective, he was hilarious throughout, especially in the beginning of the game and the middle part. But the further I got through the game, the more I noticed that, especially on my second Septentrion playthrough, I noticed that he was actually on Fate 2, whereas Keita was on Fate 1. Um, so that was kind of interesting. So I wasn't a big fan of Joe. I would say he's in my lower regions, but he did bring a lot of humor to
So
it,
so
which
would,
is
so I guess after maybe the second or third playthrough, his humor's kind of gone stale after a while, I guess. But
yeah,
were
yeah.
you able to finish his? I maxed him out in Triangulum. Were you able to see him finish his proposal and wedding with his girlfriend? That part.
Well, I did see it in the ending that they were marrying, but to be honest, I didn't really do all the fate events in Triangulum, so that is definitely something that I would do to kind of get the full resolution for Joe.
Yeah, maybe that's why we have a slightly different opinion on him. Maybe you're able to see because you said there's that middle part where that his internal struggle is that he's try to avoid conflict, avoiding responsibility. He's what, like 25 or 26, but he acts more childish than the main characters and his friends. Like I said, he's just being a goofball all the time when he has all these real problems he has to face. But he does go through a journey kind of like EO, and then does end up accepting responsibility and really caring for his girlfriend and seeing how she's the most important thing in his life. And if you max out his events in Triangulum, you definitely see that, and the lead up to his proposal and the wedding, and the effort he put into that more than he ever did with anything. So you definitely see a growth in Joe. So that's what I really liked about him, despite all his wittiness. And
Oh, definitely. No,
actually,
I think the last thing what I saw was that he lost a ring or something like that in Triangulum, and that's where it ended for me because I ran out of time.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, when you get a chance, go back and fade him up. But some of his funnier moments, which I really love, of course, you got the infamous rainbow.
Oh yeah, the
Can't
rainbow.
forget
That
that.
was
Or
that that was hilarious.
yeah, you're talking about the beginning, about the Rainbow Bridge, and that was one of the dialogue options. And that's the one thing I really like about Joe. With every other main character, you have your dialogue options. If you pick the troll funny option, everyone kind of gets pissed off. But with Joe, if you pick that option, he kind of goes along with you and has fun, and that's why I really like them.
Oh yeah, no, especially in the beginning. It's like when you introduce him, you can say to him like, "Hey, no, long time no see," and he's just like, "Oh, accepting," like, "Oh yeah, man, it's fun to see you again." And he is a really fun character, and I'm definitely going to try to on my next Triangulum route to try and complete his fate story, so I get closure on that and maybe like him a little bit more than I am right now.
Yeah, and just one last Joe tidbit. Yeah, gush about it more. More characters talked about it. But one of my absolute favorite events is one of the moments I actually laugh out loud to myself. It was I think it was his fate event or like a story event where these random civilian was thinking Joe was a spy for Gyps or something. He was just kind of snooping around his building, and the guy like, "Are you a Gyps spy?" And Joe's like, "Oh, spy, cool. I always want to be a spy, just like Lupin the Third." Then the guy's like, "Lupin the Third is a thief, you idiot."
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. That was in one of the Ronaldo events, I think. Oh, that was a
Yeah,
hilarious.
I just had me Lupin the Third. So another one of great Joe moments, but we can move on. Maybe we haven't talked about girls in a while. Pick a waifu, Mike, for the next
Well,
bit.
let's save the let's talk about the Irie and Hinako duo, I would say, which that was actually
Yeah,
quite a surprise. So you interact with Irie in Nagoya, and either you meet Hinako when you're in Osaka. So Hinako is this red-haired, dancer girl who's just pretty, independent. You know, she really helps out, civilians in the beginning, and then later on she becomes, the main dancer and struggling to get into her. Just she feels useless because she's just a dancer, and doesn't really can contribute to struggles with saving people. And then there is Irie as well, who is this very she's the youngest character of all of them. She's the youngest kid, and
yeah.
she's actually just she's kind of like that tsundere character who's just always, she's punching some guys. She's always, she's the typical tsundere character. If for the people who are real, it's tough to explain, but she's like this, you know, emotionally closed.
Like a Marie,
Yeah,
almost like
exactly,
a
like
Marie
Marie.
in Persona
Yeah,
4 Golden in a way.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's that type of character who's just, always when she's confronted with emotions or like romantic feelings, she just bounces back and says something stupid. So she was going through this whole problem with her piano stuff, etc. So that those were nice stories on its own. But then when Triangulum happened, is when they stepped it really up. Is where in the Triangulum world, it turns out that Hinako and Irie just became like this duo, this pop duo. Of course, Hinako dancing and Irie playing the instruments, and that's where it really stood up for me because then in the Triangulum arc, they both grew. Hinako became a much more caring, and had other abilities to help out, and then Irie lost some of that, tsundere-ness, that rough edge, and became a more caring character as well. So they really grew together, and it's great to see that they put those two together even more in the record breaker part, because they were always butting heads and rifling, and even when they were a duo, and you would think that they're these great friends, and they were still butting heads, and that was just then you have EO trying to fix it, but it wasn't really needed. So it is a great dynamic between those two female characters, bouncing off of each other. And while I didn't really use them that much in the game, they have very interesting designs. Irie with her very pink-haired girl, pink hair, and then Hinako with the orange red hair. Um, Very nice mid-tier characters again that are really really likable, have their own personality traits, and it just shines more when they bounce off very well with each other, especially in Triangle.
yeah, I completely agree. Irie Bond, I actually prefer her design probably the most. I really like her sprite work and just her overall design and clothing in general. I thought she looked pretty appealing. Not to be trying to sound like a perp, but she looks cool. And I like her. They're bickering between the two, almost like a big sister little sister relationship. And you're right towards Triangulum in the end. What seemed to be like maybe a violent or whatever fight they have, it's actually endearing in a way. It's that's how they express their relationship with each other. Kind of violent outbursts, just kind of arguing all the time, and her calling like stupid Hina all the
Yeah,
time. So yeah, yeah, some very I thought a great addition to the overall party. Like kind of brings, I wouldn't say comic relief, but just brings a smile. Like with it because they're like entertainers. So I think they fit in well with the overall dynamic of the team. So I really like those two characters. Not the top though.
yeah,
So
definitely.
good
Yeah, no,
stuff.
like the the top of the next. So we talked about the main characters. We talked about Keito and Jungo, Irene, Hinako. We talked about Yamato and Ronaldo. Then we have the
I think we're getting into top tier waifu
we
stratum.
we are getting into top tier waifu stratum, and we're actually getting into what's kind of like they're kind of grouped together because they were all three of them were working for Gyps. Makoto is the more soldier, more in the field, and right hand lady for Yamato. And then you have Fumi, which is of course the hacker slash communications computer expert. And then you have Otome, who is the medic. The she heals everybody, and they're kind of like the Gyps force. And again, which shows in Triangulum, is where they're kind of the three of them, friendship, working together, making fun of each other. And while I am not a major fan of Makoto, again, it was a she was a good character, but I didn't like her as much as say top tier waifus, which are definitely Otome and Fumi.
So Makoto, damn it. Um, so they present her as this kind of loyal dog character that's just following orders and stuff, but there's much more subtlety to her character, and she definitely grows throughout, especially in Triangulum. She's the one character that actually listens to everyone and actually wants to hear everyone's perspective. She hears out your main character's situation, Io and Daichi, and even Ronaldo when he attacked Gyps. She wasn't out there. She wasn't siding with Gyps. She was trying to hear him out and actually let him go, and had to take shit from Yamato. And yeah, she's overall just a good character that has good intentions, even though she's still very loyal to Gyps, and even shines more in Triangulum arc when finally she really disagrees with Miyako, which we'll get into in the end, and her way of dealing with things, and definitely grows into her own character and has her own ideals, but still very caring of others. And little thing I really like about her. Once we can get into more, we talk about Otome. She really has this thing for the main character, which I like. Otome kind of brings up that, oh, don't you have something to confess? Like she kind of has this crush on the main character, which I really like. It's kind of cute. That's brought up a few times actually, and you get the sprite where she's all nervous and shy. So I quite like that. So definitely my second favorite female character.
Oh yeah, no, she's a fun character, and again, I didn't really see her full completion in Triangulum, so I have to work on those. Gotta make sure to. Luckily, I have the Triangulum master save, so I can look into who I had on Fate 5. But I really liked the fact that she was really struggling, whether she was part of Gyps or not, and especially with Yamato or with Miyako. So very solid character. That there's just other girls that I like more, but she's still a great part of the group, and you fight with her quite a lot in mandatory battles. So very solid waifu. So let's talk a little bit about Otome, who I really geared towards, and I'm kind of on the fence whether I like Fumi or I like Otome the most, because Otome is just a hilarious character because she's even though she's one of the oldest female characters, and she kind of sets off this mature vibe, and she's very much teasing the main characters. She's very just making jokes, and there was actually one event in the game where she was talking about the age difference, and she's like, I wish that the age difference was younger between I wish that the age difference was younger. It maybe could have worked out. And then when you are like, you're responding to that, and it's like, okay. But then it actually turns out that she was talking about the main character and her adopted daughter. Well, not really adopted. She takes care of this young little girl called Koharu, who her parents passed away. But that was actually really nice. She's a really fun character. She's very caring. She's very helpful. very teasing, and I really liked her design, sprite work as well. It's very blonde, you know, mature. You know, she just comes in as a medic and stuff, and um, you know, she really struggles with Koharu trying to protect her. Has a very nice story with that as well, in Septentrion and Triangulum. So you know, I really enjoyed Otome, and I used her quite a lot in the actual fights. And I'm kind of on the fence whether I like her or Fumi the most, but they both complement each other well. So yeah, I really liked Otome.
Yeah, and before we get to Fumi, so initially Otome, she came very late in Septentrion. I think she was the last playable character you can unlock, if you don't count Alcor or whatever.
True.
But yeah, really based on her design and what I saw in the beginning, I thought she was like a last minute added on character. Just like, oh, she's probably like a one dimensional just to have another character. I didn't thought she was gonna play an important role or have any good moments, but actually end up being one of my favorites as well. Like you said, you mentioned all her great backstory with her adopted daughter. I really like, but the vibe I got from her is she's kind of like this auntie or single mother, who's kind of like that's very playful. That's kind of like a milf kind of character that kind of likes to play with the younger boys. That's the vibe I got from her. And just like Joe, the dialogue options, you can pick the troll choices, and she'll go along with you, which that's what I really love about her.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and actually in the Secret Garden event, which we'll talk about with Fumi more, after that, if you talk to her, she knew you were there. She's like, I know what you did.
Yeah, she
So
sends you
you
an
did her
email
favor.
at she sends you an email at the end of that day
Yeah,
saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm happy to join
yeah,
you, but also hey, you know, I know."
yeah. So I quite like that, and like you said, she's good battle wise as well. Yeah, just overall great part of the team, and yeah, I love her dynamic and definitely top tier waifu.
Yeah, no, definitely. She's great fun character with humor and yeah, just a great character. So that's Otome. Just too bad that she joins quite late. She's indeed the last to join. So that brings us to Fumi Kano, the absolutely. It's your favorite waifu of the game as well, right?
Oh yeah, base Fumi. Yeah, so much to say. Biggest tits, highest magic.
Yeah, no, that's the same
Overall,
for me as well. You know, she is the most useful character because she's the most highest magic user in the game. And then she is just a ridiculously insane character. So you meet her quite early on, actually, where she's just like this possessed demon summoning girl behind a computer, and she is the most intelligent mad scientist character out there. She would do. I would love to see her in the Steins Gate universe because she would match that so well. She's just like this completely aloof, just devoid of all sort of social interaction character. But she actually has a really nice story, and she's just like experimenting and trying to learn more and struggling with memories. And her experiments on like Jungo and stuff were hilarious as well. So just she looks very nice. Her design is very nice, and she's just an absolutely ridiculous character that is very prevalent throughout the game because she's always the characters always turn to her for theories on what's happening and who's behind this and trying to figure out what Nicaea is and the Septentrions and all that stuff. So very happy that she's a big part of the game. She's the most useful character to use. She can be very funny based on her reactions, and yeah, she is actually a very well designed and well rounded character, so to say.
yeah, totally. First of all, I really love her design. I love that smirk she has, that smile she does, like kind of sinister in a way, but very playful. And she got that Chinese kind of dress, which is really cool with the jacket over her, the Gyps jacket. So I just like her design in general. Even her voice acting, I thought was really great. Got that like, yeah, yeah, it's kind of sciencey. Just yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. It just kind of
exactly.
fits her character and her personality, this mad scientist hacker that's thinking about a million things at once. And also very funny as well. Like yeah, like all the Jungo experiments where he blows up. It's like, and then she tries to get Daichi to experiment. And oh, one of my favorite events. I think this was in Triangulum, where she was gonna experiment on the main character, but she needed to take your clothes off, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna take your clothes off, and your main character, and I said, oh, go ahead, and she's like, all right. Then she tried to figure out these buttons on his shirt, so she kind of is wrapped around him, like messing, like they're messing around, and then Io knocks off, like, oh, can I come in? And you had the option. I said no, it's not what it looks like. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna run away.
Yeah, that was
And
a
then
hilarious
Daichi,
event.
and then Daichi shows up. He's like, "Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm coming in." Then like Daichi's like dumbfounded. He's like, "No, this can't be happening. Oh my gosh!" And the main character, I was like, "Daichi, go away!" And then he's like, "All right, I'm gonna come in again." He knocks the door and comes in again, trying to pretend like it didn't happen. And he was like, "No, why is this happening to me?" And that's just one of the funniest moments. And her laptop scene with Trumpeter, come on, that's like
Oh,
super OP.
oh, that
So yeah,
that was so awesome because when I was basically it's on the sixth day or something, and it's like the third time you have to summon this demon again, and I was like, oh my god, we're going into this entire fight scene again, and I have to do a battle, and I have to recruit him, and but then this time around they said no, we're just going to bring in Fumi. And she's just going to kick Trumpeter's ass, and you just instantly get him without having to do an entire battle. That is a great fucking
yeah,
scene.
yeah. She was raining a laptop on his ass, smacking with them laptops.
Oh yeah.
So overall, yeah, utility wise, design wise, character funniness. I don't think she has quite as the depth as Makoto or Io in my personal opinion, but as a complete package, definitely top tier waifu. And man, I really wish they made a figure for her, but there's no such thing. I really wish they did, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely great stuff.
Sadly, no Fumi love on the figures. I know that there's just one for Io and one for Irie, but she is definitely my favorite female character in the game. But like I mentioned, it's the entire cast of characters. I know we haven't talked about two specific characters yet, which are the most important, I would say, story-wise. But I just really like this entire,
Yeah,
group of characters coming together. They have some really well-designed and different style of female characters, both in their design and both in their personality. For those who know me, I tend to aim more towards the female characters. In general, like I mentioned, I don't really care about the male characters all that much. So yes, I end up not caring about Keita, and I end up not caring so much about Joe or Daichi even. But then the female characters is what usually sell a game to me, and they really did it well in Devil Survivor 2. Great diversity and different. So it's a very well-rounded cast of characters that I really like. It just fits really well together. They play off each other, and with both Septentrion and even Triangulum. I still have to do a lot of Triangulum fifth arcs, Fate 5 arcs. So just great cast of characters, and for me that leaves me with the two sort of behind the scenes setting the story around, especially in Septentrion. It's of course Psyduck, El Psyduke, or Alcor, or the Anguished One, who has a great design. I really like that shirt he's wearing or design. It's just great.
yeah, that's so cool. I even Yeah, he's such a cool looking character to begin with, and I don't know what's up with all the names. I call him just Alcor. That's the go-to name for me. But Al Psyduck's kind of like the running meme here. But yeah, he's like this mysterious character. I don't know. It's just kind of like a what's the word? Kind of like he's definitely not human. You can tell that, but he's just kind of like an oddity, and he's kind of there to guide the main character. And once you find out who he was, and actually in Triangulum, you actually cared for him even more. And yeah, I just want him on his, just want to be on his side. He's just a really cool character.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I really liked. In the original story, he was just kind of like there monitoring and helping out. And then when I did the original Septentrion ending, he is kind of the one character that, ends up, perishing, even on the true Daichi route. So I'm very happy that in the sort of triangulum beginning, they rewrote the Septentrion ending to also include Alcor to make sure that he is still part of it and that he is indeed now the one monitoring it and everything. So that was something they did done really cool. And then also, of course, the fact that in Triangulum he is again there trying to help out, and in the ending, it's kind of like, yeah, what if you're rewriting this entire world? We won't be here, and then of course at the very end, he's the final character that they actually show, who was just sitting there on his surfboard. But he is a really good character. Just swoops in, flies down, very mysterious, very nice voice acting, slow voice as well. And I really enjoyed Alcor. I actually, I never really fought with him, and I've never really fought with him in any battle except for his actual ending, which I did as well. But it's it's a nice character, I would say. It's that he has his own ending. It's kind of like another sort of neutral route that you can take him on. You don't pick Daichi, Ronaldo, or Yamato, so um, it's a it's a fun character. But the only thing that I don't like about him is that he was just monitoring, and there were certain events that he did where he still ended up doing certain things that directly involved him killing people, which I didn't really like that much. So he used those like Botis and Bifrons. He used those demons as his pawns, and they were just killing people left and right. And I don't necessarily agree with doing so, but it's just to push the characters along. But um, you know, Alcor, from his design and all that stuff, is a very solid character.
Yeah, and I really want to go back and do his ending in Septentron. Actually, I did his ending in Triangulum, which is really cool. I highly recommend you do that. I think that's called the Administrator ending, which is pretty awesome. It's the same boss battle, but just different ending, obviously. But yeah, in Septentron, yeah, it does kind of contradict where he's trying to guide the main characters and the group to certain path, but at the same time throwing them obstacles. But like you said, he just want to, try to push them along. But overall, he's a pretty decent character. I quite like him a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, that leaves us with the final and 15th character that joined specifically for Record Breaker. You can see her on the box, and that is, of course, Miyako Hotsuin. So we talked about it a little bit already with Yamato. She is actually replacing Yamato in this world, and you will later find out why that is. But once you're actually in a Triangulum arc and you find out that Miyako is there, she's now the chief of Gyps. She runs things a little bit different. In the beginning, she's very helpful. She tries to help civilians. She doesn't really think that people are expendable. But then she also has this edge of mystery around her, and the more the main characters recruit again and try to fight these Triangulums, you realize she does things a little bit different there. Why is she capturing the Triangulum? Why isn't she finishing them off? And she gets into certain arguments, and she becomes a very double-faced, villainous type character. But then it flips again, and it's just, I really liked what they did with Miyako. They gave her a very nice arc, where again, she goes through all sorts of range of emotions. You think she's the villain, she thinks she's your ally, and of course everything just flows really well. Her fate story was really nice because if you wanted to get the Record Breaker true neutral ending of Triangulum, you had to get her to level 5. And then that ending in there, I thought that she was a very nice character. She's designed very well, with her Gyps jacket and her hair and style and everything. Um, and I kind of really liked the fact that she was like half human, half, administrator thingy. So Um, I really like Miyako Hatsune. She's a great addition, and she is really the heart and soul of Triangulum.
Yeah, pretty much. How'd you like the fact that they gave you like four different chances to say in your dialogue option? Aren't you just Yamato and drag?
Yeah, I saw that a lot. I didn't really pick it because I wanted to get her to level 5, so I didn't want to offend her. But when I saw that option the first time, I really laughed. When they're trying to figure out like where Yamato is and why he isn't the chief, you had the option to just pick. I think you're just Yamato in drag. That was actually just absolutely hilarious, and it appeared actually a couple of times indeed. So really, really nice joke there from Atlas.
Yeah, I only picked it the first time. She just went like, I don't know who's this Yamato you speak of, but whatever. But I'm sure after the third time, if you keep saying that, she'll probably be pretty pissed off at you. but but you know what? Yeah, she does get you on this roller coaster of emotions. There's so many twists and turns. Like, man, do I trust this bitch? And now she wants to kill me and sacrifice all of us. But then she has her good intentions. And actually, I didn't realize this till much later. That's actually the first bad ending of this arc. If you agree with her, and I looked it up on YouTube. It's such a shitty ending, where you agree, you and your friends and Alcar, okay to be sacrificed for the greater good of humanity. But man, it's not a good ending at all. So if you bow down to her, you miss out on that boss fight and the last couple days. So definitely don't do that if you're still listening and you haven't played. Yeah,
Yeah.
that part was pretty shitty. But yeah,
I
overall, I really like her design. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say I didn't really do that. The sacrifice ending. I haven't done that yet, so I'll make sure to do that and then reload whenever I do a triangulum. So, but I like that they threw that in there.
Yeah, and her character design wise, I thought she looked really cool. A great compliment, and definitely for the longest I really didn't like her. Uh, Despite I like her design, I didn't like her till after the situation where you fight her, and then you're trying to come up with your own solution to all this, whether to fight, was it not Polaris this time? What's the name? Kanakapus or Kanakapus or
Canopus, yeah.
whatever. Yeah, and you kind of get her and Yamato on the same page, and I think the true and best ending involves her and Yamato being, and I guess Alcar being Fate 5. So yeah, I like her journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. They really resolve it around her. She's the difference, and the triangulum, of course. But um, I really like what they did there. And then, of course, when you get into the record breaker ending and everything is kind of setting it up, everybody's on the same page and it's becoming like super sweet and trying to save everything. And then you fight off Canopus, you save her, you save Alcor, you save all the others. They're all coming together. That all leads to, in my opinion, just a much more. I was already very happy with the Septentrion True Neutral ending where they rewrite the world and the three main characters meet up again at like the train station. Everything is good again. I really like that ending. But then here comes the triangular record breaking ending, which just ties it all up even better. And then the entire triangulum, the fate systems, like I said, I really look forward to doing the ones that I didn't do Fate 5 because it seems they really add in some proper ones for everybody. But just Triangulum and with Miyako, just a great, nice package of story and closure and some great endings. I look forward to getting the other endings as well. But the record breaker ending, man, that was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't use a guide, and I was so happy to find out that when I saw the end, I knew immediately this was the best possible outcome. I'm glad I did what I did. It was the right choice, and with Miyako, she fought so hard to save humanity and this world, and for a moment, you thought her and Alcar, who played a huge role in this whole process, was not going to be around to stick around in this new world they created, that's free from administrators and Chronocopus and all this alien forces. But to see her pop out in this with her school uniform and Daichi just dragging her in the car, riding to the beach, and was it Alcor was already there surfing. That was just a great way to end an excellent journey.
Oh yeah, no, and an excellent journey it actually is. For about 50 hours, 35 Septentrion, 15 to 20 in Triangulum, you will be presented with, not only some fantastic and absolutely great strategy RPG gameplay, but just a great character story again of these characters trying to overcome all odds. First fighting against this alien invasion of the Septentrions, then trying to fight against this even higher entity, which are the administrators, which control all the worlds and all the outcome on it in this Akashic records, and just this group of 15 characters trying to fight against that, and the way it's presented, and all the individual plot lines and storylines, except for Super Shirikeda, you know, it just meshes really well together, and it's a great story, and it really is. After Persona 4 and Persona 3, it really is my third favorite Shin Megami Tensei game. Uh, it's just a story, even because the story is just really well written and just great characters, funny moments, fun events, and replayability. Like, just we all did the Secret Garden event, which is hilarious. We have to get some perfect moments in there.
Oh, yeah, we haven't even talked about it. Let's jump into that right now.
Yeah, exactly. So,
um,
what I wanted to say is, I actually this route that I'm playing on right now, I'm actually not doing the Secret Garden. I'm just being a nice little boy, and I'm going to the health exam. So, but let's talk about Secret Garden. So go for it.
yeah, this is something I wish I mentioned in the non-spoiler part to tell people that play Secret Garden when you get the chance. I'll put it in the comments and like annotate it, but definitely skip the health exam because I knew what it was. I saw Secret Garden. I wonder what that's all about. And you get this. I believe this is an exclusive event for Record Breaker. It wasn't even in the original. I believe with the sprite work where you get to see a little fan service moment. You get to see all the ladies in their skimpies and they're having their measurements, and Hinako was making fun of Ari, saying that hers was small, and she was kind of squeezing her own stuff. She's like, they're not small, they're huge. and
Yeah, did you know that for the
and
Record Breaker port, they actually Yasuda, he actually redrew the character portraits so that they looked, like Fumi, they look different. They had different nightgowns on, or like
oh,
that was specific for Record Breaker actually.
oh wow, I didn't know that.
So the normal DS
Uh,
version, they're
and
just in their normal clothes. So perving it up right there,
uh,
Atlas. Great stuff. Worth $50, Atlas tax and all.
Yeah, and then you're there with Daichi hiding and taking a peek. And the funniest part, bringing Joe back up again. Joe is there the whole time.
Oh
You,
yeah.
you and Daichi there, and he's like, "Whoa, what the heck? Since when did you get here?" He's like, "I always live in the shadow. And when you get to be my age, you just stay in the shadows."
Oh, that was hilarious. That was so perfect when he mentioned, like when you get to be my age, you just hide in the shadows. You know where to stand and all that stuff. Oh, that was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's such a Joe moment. And of course, Fumi was the last one to show up. Oh my gosh, I wish if I can find that sprite and put it on here. So OP.
Oh, definitely. It's
That
but just that banter going off of each other, and it's a very typical. It is a very typical Japanese, trope. It happened in a couple of Tales games as well, where they're in the bikini, in the hot spring events. That usually the hot springs or like a health exam. That's where the female characters come together and they start talking about each other's measurements. Does that really happen in Japan though? I don't know. I'm not a Japanese lady, so but who knows? It's the Secret Garden.
in my mind it does.
Of course, of course. But definitely pick the Secret Garden, and I actually picked the other one, the health exam, which you know is nothing really fancy. It's not even Otome doesn't even really perfing up or anything. It's just, all right, we're just talking you in. Daichi actually mentions like, hey dude, man, where were you? I was waiting for you, and stuff like that. So just pick the secret garden. That's definitely one of the best funny moments in the game. It's your typical. It had to be in there, but it's very lighthearted, very fun, and it comes at a great moment in the game. It's like on the fourth day, the beginning of the fourth day, right after you had a very long battle. So um, it's actually, it's actually a pretty good one. And what I don't hate, what I hate most about it is when I'm on New Game Plus. You go into the fourth day and you're like, oh yes, Secret Garden is coming up, but then just to fuck you over, they actually have to do one fight, which is the grass bud. You have to defeat it first. So there's like a little bit of a delay
Ah,
thrown in there, like it's fucking cock tease. But then you can actually do Secret Garden, and it's a great fun event.
just 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 keep a master save before the event and never delete it.
That might actually be a good idea. So once I go through that again, I might actually do that.
Yeah, great moments in Record Breaker.
Oh no, definitely. Those girls, man, they break a lot of records.
Oh yeah.
Some
All
big
right.
ladies.
Yep.
All right.
Definitely
So
want to see what that. Yeah. After that diversion.
yeah, no, definitely. What else is left to be said about this wonderful Devil Survivor 2 record breaker? Is there anything you still want to touch upon, except Fumi's tits?
um, I mean, we can go on all day about those, but I mean, you're still working on all your endings. If we wanted to, we could break down every single ending, but I don't know. I want to leave that hanging because I haven't done all the endings. You haven't done all of them. People who've listened maybe only did the true ending, so we'll leave that for people to go back to at a later point. So I think we went deep into all the characters and the mechanics. I think what was it, we're all over 3 hours now, I believe, or 2 hours at least. So
Yeah, with editing, I think
yeah.
we're about 2.5 hours in. Just one thing I briefly want to touch upon: if you do the true neutral route, you know, the other endings won't be that much different. It's just from a different viewpoint, but still, I'm like I did the anguished one route and I did the Ronaldo route right now. It is still for 60-70% the same events that happen. It is just that initial recruiting when you pick the ending, and then of course when you get to the actual Polaris in the final fight, that will be different. But you know, for the most part, it is the same. You still have to do the same subject. You still have to do what's his name, Bennett Nash. You still have to do the dragon. So that is a little bit disappointing. And that was the same with SMT4 as well. If you did the neutral route, you just go back to the law and chaos route, which I did, and then it turns out to be, you know, just the same, but with less content, just from a different viewpoint. So they're not rewriting the entire
Yeah.
endings or anything. Just wanted to throw that out there before we wrap it up. But
Yeah, and I can put my opinions on the Triangulum endings because I did all of those. I didn't do all the Septemtrons. So with Triangulum, you have the three endings, and a little disappointing as well. Pretty much exact same boss fights. I thought with Ronaldo's one because his ending involved killing every administrator and just fighting your way through infinitely. I thought it was gonna be like a rush of different boss fights, but it's the exact same one as the neutral. You just get a different kind of ending, and it's like a never-ending cycle for that route. It's like never the world keeps restarting, which is to me is kind of a shitty ending, but that's how it is. And same with um, Alcor's ending, the administrator ending, still same set of boss fights, but different outcome obviously. So a little disappointed there. A little shorter though. I think I did the other two endings in less than an hour after reload, but yeah, just us being too nitpicky. But I think there's variety enough in dialogue and events for people to go the 100% if they wanted to.
yeah, no, that definitely. So yeah, I'm working on the 100% right now. Like I mentioned, tomorrow I'll try to try and use all my money to fuse up the 100% Demon Compendium, and then I'll complete Ronaldo's routes. which means I will have I will hopefully have 2 more Septentrion routes to go through, which is to do Yamato's ending and is actually to do Daichi's normal ending. So Daichi has 2 endings. One is the true neutral ending where you recruit everybody, and the other one is actually just Daichi's ending where you don't recruit everybody and you end up killing Polaris. So if I want to get all the titles 100%, I have to do those 2 routes. And then on the Triangulum side, I have to do the 2 endings again, which are the Ronaldo and the Yamato ending, or the Anguished one ending, or Alcor's ending. And so 2 endings left on Septentrion, 2 endings left on Triangulum. And then the big one for me is to do the Super Boss, which is fighting the one and only Navigator, which is Tico, which I think this is actually the first time one of us mentions Tico, all the
Oh yeah.
way 2.5 hours in. So, basically, if you're here on the spoiler part, you will know what Tico is. I picked both of them. Um, so I like the female Tico a lot better. She's very cheery, very bubbly, crazy. I don't know if you use the male Tico, but he's like this very well-spoken butler type, which is nice, but female Tico all the way. But I was actually doing
Yep.
the super fight on my first Triangulum battle, but they are extremely strong. I got really close to beating him, but it's a battle of attrition. So there's 3 distinct phases thrown in there, and I got to the 3rd phase, and then I had no MP left, and I couldn't even damage them because they heal as well. So I will try to go back to Triangulum once I get 100% Demon Compendium, once I mess around with the Mitamas and really get like OP demons. And hopefully I will be able to get this game 100%. I might not go for the full 100% depending on my time, because if all that is left is to just do the Yamato and the Daichi and another Triangulum route, I might not do it, because it is 10 or so hours to at least get to an ending. Right now, Ronaldo, I'm 10 hours in, so that is 10 hours of your time where there's no challenge. It is just auto reading, it's just fighting. So, I'm very good with getting very tough achievements and trophies, but once it becomes like just time based and just quantity, whatever, if I put the time in, I'll get it. I might not do it, but for me, so that Tico boss fight, that is something I really want to do and get the 100% companion. But still, regardless, I'm already about 70, maybe 75 hours in, so I will see how much it goes. Right now, I'm back from all my crazy trips, so you know, Overclocked is staring me in the face as well, and there's going to be a lot of Vita games for the summer, so maybe or maybe not I'll get all the titles, but for me already I put in a lot of hours, and it's just a fantastic game of the year for sure.
Yep.
So any last thoughts from your end?
Definitely game of the year. My favorite S&T game, excluding Persona 3 and 4. Must own for any 3DS owner. And yeah, one I can definitely see myself replaying. Probably even if the year's over, if there's a slow period, I wouldn't say go the 100%, but maybe try to go for some of these boss fights and fuse Alice. I think she's a boss as well. Really want to get her, and yeah, go for some of the other endings because I think there's still a lot to do. And yeah, I can even see myself restarting this completely at some point, but not right now. But overall, like I said, we put in over 2 hours just talking about this game, and yeah, I don't see anything dethroning Game of the Year besides Persona 5. So good stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, so thanks a lot for appearing once again on RP Gibberish, and for those who are out there still listening, for regarding new episodes, there has never been a set schedule for RP Gibberish. It's just whenever it happens, whenever there's news announcements, or whenever there's an episode planned. So Just to reassure everybody, you're always welcome to hang out on the Facebook wall on RPGibberish. That's usually where we post the new stuff nowadays. Let us know in the comments below if you're listening to this on YouTube what your thoughts are on Devil Survivor's sub-series. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time on RPGibberish. And
Through.
oh yeah, no, that is actually a great system, and that is actually what really got me hooked on this game. Is, you know, I did the neutral septentrion route, I did the neutral triangulum route, and then I was like, yeah, but I want to unlock more of these titles, and I actually want to get all the rewards. So this is when I went in through another septentrion route, and I beat that one, and I did all the side quests and the super bosses for the septentrion route, and then I figured, let's do another septentrion route and get the final demons that I'm waiting to unlock, because, you know, we'll talk about that more. And I'm actually right now at the final boss of my third septentrion route, and I'm pretty much right before we started recording, I was working on getting 100% compendium. I have about 58% now, and hopefully I'll get that 100%. And then, you know, there's triangulum endings I still got to get, and then you know, it is a very, very addictive system, which with the DS versions I never really got into it. You know, I just beat the game and I kind of reloaded saves, you know, with backing them up without having to replay the entire game. But now I see the benefits, actually, if you have the desire to go back and you get these titles and skills. Now, it's not a perfect system. I'm not going to lie. I'm now in my third septentrion playthrough, and all I'm doing is just auto reading through most of the events and just picking the events that I missed. But the battles are ridiculously easy. You know, I carried over all of my level 99 demons. You know, it's, you know, there's no challenge anymore. Even just the bosses, they are ridiculous. I can one-turn bosses, and even on, you know, the Apocalypse difficulty, there's no challenge. It's not like the levels of the enemies are the same as my demons, so it's very easy to get through. But on the other hand, I'm just like, why not just skip the battles? Just give me an option to skip it, and just let me actually play the ones that I want to play, which are the super bosses and the special events that I missed, and where you can unlock demons and all that stuff. But it's a great fucking system.
Yeah, and let's talk about the difficulty for a second. Is after your mini playthrough, is there a third or hardest difficulty to unlock or anything?
Sadly, no. So it's just Blessed and Apocalypse. The third difficulty, in my opinion, was New Game Plus. If you do New Game Plus and you have to do the side quests, the difficulty comes in because whatever you do, no matter how many titles you get, you will never be able to carry over your level. So you'll always start at level 1 or level 5-ish again. And then you can get through these events where the demons that you're fighting are really high level. So that's where the challenge comes in, and you have to do some super bosses, and those were quite challenging. I would say that is the third difficulty. I still have to do one super boss in the Triangulum arc, which is new. So, you know, that's where it comes in, but there's not really a super difficulty, I would say.
Yeah, and for those people who are wondering, you know, what difficulty to pick, for me, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm always going for the easiest one in JRPGs. I am there for the story and the visual novels and shit. So, so I'm not too crazy about difficulty, but I will say this: if this is you know, if you played other SMT games before, and especially if you played Devil Survivor 1, definitely go for Apocalypse. Blessed difficulty was too easy in my opinion. I played about 80% through Septentrion arc without a game over screen, and that's kind of odd for SMT game for me not to die. So yeah, if you played some of these SMT games before, definitely play Apocalypse, because you can always bump it down whenever you want if it feels like it's too hard. But you know, if you're new, if this is like your first SMT game or whatever, maybe play on Bless, and you can always bump it up to Apocalypse later on.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that is the good thing about it. Actually, I will say the Devil Survivor games are easier than the other SMT games that I've played, but with the years they're also becoming more accessible and try to cater to all crowds. And you can just bump it up and bump it down. So I started and played on Apocalypse until I read this very interesting little. It's not really a glitch, it's just a nice to have feature. Which, if you're interested what that is, shameless plug, you're going to have to look at my tips and tricks video, which is going to be up sometime. But there's a nice little bonus thing that you can do, which switching difficulties regarding cracking skills. But we'll get to talk about that another time. But yeah, you can you can change the difficulty if you want to. So that's nice. On Apocalypse, you'll just earn less experience, and they have more HP, and you have less HP. I didn't really, I didn't really see any difference. I didn't play that much on Blessed, but I don't think there's actually a more unfair AI, which, that might have been a thing, because sometimes the AI was a little bit stupid, I would say.
Yeah.
I,
What I seem to notice between the two, maybe you can confirm since you played most of it on Apocalypse. I played Blessed for about 80%. When you battle the three enemies, if you go for the middle leader, you kind of end the battle. But sometimes the other two enemies will kind of take a hit as a shield. I noticed that happens more on the Apocalypse
It
difficulty.
was not released in Europe for at least 15 months or something like that. It came out like October 2014. So that was my game of the year for that year. Having to wait 16, 17, what was it, maybe even 18 months for that game? Yeah, no. That's not going to happen. Persona Q actually came out within 2 weeks of the North American release, which that's good. But now we're here, Record Breaker. I don't actually hope that it's going to be my game of the year, Record Breaker, but for right now, already halfway through the year, it is my game of the year. So, import that stuff. However, to get back into it, I think we have to talk a little bit. We both played this game for many hours and we're very well in depth. But we've got to take it a step back for people who aren't very, very aware of what Devil Survivor actually is. So, Devil Survivor is basically the strategy RPG spin-off series within the Shin Megami Tensei. So usually Shin Megami Tensei, it has their first-person dungeon crawlers, or now with SMT4 the third-person dungeon crawlers, and then they have quite a lot of different sort of spin-offs out there. And the Devil Survivor spin-off is actually one that is like a grid-based strategy RPG or turn-based RPG or even tactical RPG. Intermixed with turn-based battles. So you move on the grid, and once you actually come up close to an enemy and you hit the attack button, it kind of, say in a Fire Emblem game, you just get the animation where they're fighting. But in a Devil Survivor game, it's actually different, where you're 3-on-3, you have your leader and a left and a right, sort of sidekick. And then you just have your turn-based battle system where you can use attacks, you can use spells, you can defend, buffs, all that, heal, all that good stuff. And so it's kind of, a hybrid between a strategy RPG and a tactical RPG. And I'm quite fond of that. I don't know, Danny, how are you with the actual hybrid gameplay?
I quite like it a lot. Actually, I'm still have not played that many strategy RPGs. Like I said, Fire Emblem Awakening was kind of my big eye opener, and I think I only do we even count Valkyria Chronicles. I think that's kind of a hybrid as well, so I don't count that. But yeah, I played Overclock last year. I absolutely loved it. I did like the fact that it was grid based, but at the same time, once the battle started, it was your standard turn base, and you have your good old SMT mechanics with the or I guess the newer ones, the press turn and your demon party. And yeah, I quite like how the battles go about. It's pretty much not kill the next enemy. There's a lot of variety in the battles where you have different objectives. We can get more into that when we talk about the whole battle stuff. But it's there's escape sequences, help protect civilians. Just a lot of variety in gameplay. So it never felt stale to me, and it was a lot of fun playing out these battles.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's yeah, we'll get a little bit more into gameplay differences later on in style, but just from get-go, so that's the Devil Survivor series. So like we mentioned, we're talking about Devil Survivor 2, and we're talking about Record Breaker right here. So to make it a little bit more clear, the history of Devil Survivor is that there's currently two games out there. There is Devil Survivor 1 that came out for the DS, and then there's Devil Survivor 2 that came out for the original DS. I've played both when they came out, and they were really great. Danny, had you played the original DS versions?
No, I've not. Like I said, I've only played Overclock just last year. Obviously, having the more enhanced version on the 3DS, I opted for that. I was so very close to playing Devil Survivor 2 many times before Record Breaker came out. I don't know, I just couldn't wait anymore. I was like, I just want to play Devil Survivor 2 right now. But I was like, no, just gotta be patient. Record Breaker is right around the corner. So I ended up waiting for this version. So no, have not touched the older ones. So can you tell us more? About the some of the difference between the two versions for people who don't know?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so basically what happened is, we had those original two DS versions, which are great on their own. I really love them. If you've seen Arrow stuff on their Japanese RPGs, they were there. They're in there. I think Devil Survivor 1 was in the 50s, Devil Survivor 2 was in the 30s. So really great games. And what happened afterwards is Devil Survivor 1 got remaked. And like Danny mentioned, it's Devil Survivor 1 Overclocked, which I still have to play. Actually, that's one of the games that I imported back when I imported my North American 3DS. I still haven't touched it. I wanted to play it before Record Breaker came out. Backlog work and stuff. So it's going to be played soon. Actually, uh, you know, once I finish Record Breaker, in my opinion, done with it. I'm not done with it. I'm just having too much fun. So, but that's Overclocked. And before I actually get into the differences between Devil Survivor 2 and Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, I just want to talk about Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor 2's story. So I have had a couple of comments from people before, like, oh, it's Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, so yeah, I'll hold off until I actually play Overclocked or 1. It's not really needed, actually. This is a sequel in style only, not in story. So the cast of characters in Devil Survivor 1 is completely independent of the cast of characters in Devil Survivor 2, which is kind of the same in Persona 3 and Persona 4. It is just a same gameplay system, same sort of setting, which we'll talk about soon. So if you have any concern of I have to play both Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor 2, I would recommend you play both, and I'm sure Danny will say the same, but you don't really need to play them in order. So like right now I'm playing Record Breaker first, and then I'm going back to Overclocked. So just to set the record straight, they are
Yeah.
two distinct story games, and you don't need to play one in one, which is different, say, Digital Devil Saga, to confuse you again. Digital Devil Saga, that you actually have to play one first and then the second because it's a story continuation, but it's not the case with Devil Survivor 1 and 2. So now we got that out of the way. What is different in Record Breaker so we had the Devil Survivor 2 story, which is a story that takes place over about, I would say, it takes place over days. So there is about 8 days in the original Devil Survivor 2 story, and there's multiple routes in it, and we'll all talk about that later on in the spoiler part. But what happened with Record Breaker is they did a couple of nice things. They made it more accessible. So for the 3DS remake, they added in a easy mode, which is called Blessed difficulty, opposed to the normal difficulty, which is the Apocalypse difficulty. So that's nice. They added in, of course, voice acting, which we'll talk about soon, but they added in voice acting, some really great voice cast right there for some of the great characters. But the biggest change they added in here is a completely extra story arc called the Triangulum. So the original story was dubbed the Septentrion arc, which is referring to the name or group of the bad guys, which is the Septentrions. And then the new arc is the Triangulum arc, which, depending on how you play it, it is about 15 to 25 hours long. It really depends on how much you carry over from your Septentrion playthrough. If you start with the Septentrion playthrough, you can delve right into the Triangulum arc if you wanted to. I didn't do it because, even though I beat Devil Survivor 2 before, I just really wanted that refresh. And Danny, I think you started with Septentrions first because it was your first time playing, right?
Yeah, obviously, and I really like what Atlas did with this one because for people who might have played Devil Survivor 2 already, who maybe didn't want to go through the same story again, they can jump right into the Triangulum arc, unlike in Overclock, where the new extra day in Overclock was not unlockable from the get-go. You would have to complete the storyline to unlock it and play through that eighth day.
Oh yeah, that when Overclocked came out, that was actually very frustrating because I actually went through Devil Survivor, the first Devil Survivor, and getting all the endings. I did that in a little bit of a strange way because I had a flash card. I could back up my save, and I kind of made like a master save like 2 days before the end. And there I actually just reloaded all the saves. And then Overclocked happened, and then I figured out I had to play the entire game again. So that's why I've never played it up until now. But yeah, it's a very good thing that they actually made this playable from the get-go. And if you say, if it's your first time playing, go with Septentrion first. The Triangulum arc is a story continuation. It picks up right at the end of, and here's where it kind of gets confusing. And I'm saving it because it's a little bit of a spoiler. But just know that Triangulum takes place after the Septentrion arc. There was a little bit of confusion that it was going to be a what-if story, parallel dimension, all that great crazy stuff. It is a story continuation. So you have Septentrion arc. Once you beat that one, you go right into the Triangulum arc. And like I mentioned, you can, if you beat one of the arcs, you can unlock points or titles, and then you can use them and you can carry over stuff. So if you carry over like your skills learned and your some of your demons, you will be a lot more powerful at the beginning of the Triangulum arc, and you can breeze through it a little bit faster, which was the case for me. The original, I beat on my first playthrough, I beat the Septentrion arc. I did some of the neutral route, which was about 35 hours. And then it took me about 15 hours to beat Triangulum for a total of 50 hours. And, Danny, I think that's the same for you, right?
Mine was a little less. I played about like 70, 80% of the game on blessed difficulty, so I did less free battles. So mine was a tad bit shorter, but actually what I really like about the point system and carrying it over, I like a lot of RPGs where it's new game plus where you just pretty much get everything, money, levels, or demons sometimes. I like where you get to pick and choose. I know we're jumping too far ahead here, but let's go ahead and talk about it now because I guess you get points based on what you do in the game, and you get to pick and choose what you want to carry over. Like you want to carry over money that costs a certain amount of points. If you want to carry over demons, or if which the best thing you should definitely pick is at the fusing limit. There's an option to fuse demons at any level in in the next playthrough if you wanted to. So stuff like that I really like. So you can kind of pick your own difficulty for the next play.
Welcome back, everybody, back again with a new episode of RP Gibberish. And before we get started for this episode, which as you can see by the title is going to be all about Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, the newest SMT release, I have a quick announcement, and that is of course that my co-host is not here at the moment, and my co-host is actually changing names. So it's no longer RPG Swagman and Arrow, it's now the Wanderer from the past. So we'll see how that goes with the fonts and logos and stuff. But a great new title and name from Greg, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. But he's not going to be here for this episode. He might be here soon on RPG Gibberish with some episodes being planned. And of course, I know that you guys are all very excited and interested to find out what our thoughts are on the Trails in the Sky announcements that Xseed has been dropping. Yes, we are hype. If you've seen the Facebook wall, it's very interesting. But we're not going to be talking about it in this episode. It's all going to be about Devil Surviving. And I'm not going to be doing this on my own. I have a great guest here who has appeared on RPGibberish before. And that is, of course, the great SMT and Atlas fan, Devil May Pie.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm very excited to have you here on the, what is it, the sixth RPGibberish Revived episode. Like I mentioned before, we'll probably do this more often when there ever is a new release game, new RPG release, and some people in the community have played it, like yourself. Then I'll invite you on to talk about it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, before we actually get started for this episode, we're going to be splitting it up. There's going to be a spoiler-free part, very specific spoiler-free part. So if you have not played any of the Devil Survivor games, we will talk about Devil Survivor 2, and then later on, once we make it clear, there's going to be a spoiler part, spoilers on the story, spoilers on everything, and as a warning, there is going to be no spoilers for Devil Survivor 1 and Devil Survivor Overclocked, just for the fact that it's been 5 years since I played it and I can't even actually remember how the story went by. So, be safe here. It's only going to be Devil Survivor 2 spoilers. So, that being said, let's delve right into the actual talk, Devil Survivor 2. Alright, so time to talk about some Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, or actually Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. It's probably one of the longest titles I have in my video game collection. So, we'll see how it goes. Devil Survivor 2 or Record Breaker, whatever, you will probably hear the terms and titles intermixed. Desu 2, whatever. I'll try to stick with Record Breaker for now.
Yeah, we'll just go with Record Breaker for short.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely the best way to go. Record Breaker was released early in May 2015 for the Nintendo 3DS, and just to sadly disappoint quite a lot of people out there who live in Europe and Australia, officially Record Breaker is not yet out in Europe and Australia. It's coming out in the fall. Or no, actually it's coming out, and this sucks, it's coming out in 2016 actually. Etrian Mystery Dungeon is the one that's coming out in the fall. I thought we were through with this bullshit, but NIS Europe apparently has other plans, so you guys will have to wait for the full version of Devil Survivor 2, which Record Breaker is pretty much that. It is the enhanced remake, and we'll talk a little bit more in a second what it actually is. It's the enhanced remake of Devil Survivor 2, which came out in 2012. Took a pretty long time for Atlas to release it. The game was postponed for a while due to quality issues. But we finally got it in May. So of course, me being the absolute ridiculous Shin Megami Tensei fanatic that I am, I had to import it. I have been playing it on my North American 3DS. And I've actually been playing it quite a lot. It's actually right before the recording of this one, still playing it. That being said, I have finished it though. And Danny, you finished it as well, right?
Yeah, I finished it. I put in about 50 hours at this point. I'm not going the whole 100% route like you are, but it seemed like it's been a while. I already beaten Witcher 3 since I beat this one, but that's only been like 10 days ago. So I've been playing a lot of stuff, but yeah, I remember a lot of details quite fondly. So yeah, I've been much hyped for this one ever since I played Overclocked last year, and it really sucks about Europe, having to wait that long. So I mean, if you really want to play Atlas games, if you're in Europe, you might as well get yourself a North American 3DS and start importing, because it seemed like they've been having this kind of trouble for a long time. Just hope Persona 5 doesn't follow along with that.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I remember 2013. Shin Megami Tensei 4 was announced very early on that year. I finally imported the Fire Emblem Awakening 3DS. What was it? July, I think SMT4 dropped. That game,
where you can't just try to one hit the main leader.
I think that is. I venture to guess that that's because the later demons have that leader soul, hero soul, paladin soul skill more so, and they do more Makara Karn and Tetrakarn type of stuff. So I don't think that's actually just because of the difficulty. It's more because of the skills the demons have. But maybe that's something they threw in as well. So maybe there's a higher percentage for certain demons to have those skills. Maybe, but it's definitely something that later on it becomes tougher, of course. Um, but there's the difficulty, so you can always bump it up, bump it down whenever you want to. Um, and it's just very user friendly. It's very playable. So yeah, that being
Yeah,
said,
I don't know. I found with a record breaker the difficulty wise compared to overclock is so much different. It seemed like overclock I had so much harder time. I don't know if it's because it was my first Devil Survivor game, but it seemed like the some of the boss fights were pretty cheap and were insanely hard to me. But this one it seemed like it's more well balanced throughout the game.
yeah, I'm definitely going to be finding that out soon. Like I mentioned, it's been very long since I played Devil Survivor 1. It was actually my second SMT game many, many years ago. So I beat it in 2010. But I'm going to delving into Overclocked right after for me, I think 100% record breaker. Then I go into Overclocked. So I'm pretty sure we'll see how difficult it's going to be. But great strategy RPG games they are, and they are very accessible for the difficulty you can select. So, besides just being a strategy, tactical, turn-based RPG hybrid game, there's actually some really nice systems in these games to basically enhance your experience. So, in general, it's a Shin Megami Tensei game. So you have demons. So you have the main characters. We'll talk about the characters soon. But you can have up to four playable characters. Um, so you have up to four playable characters, which are the team leaders, and then you can have two demons, one on your left, one on your right, to help you out. Basically, you get these demons by you know in the beginning you have the demon auction system where you can pay money against random bidders, kind of like eBay, to get some of your demons. Now I use the demon auction system quite a lot on my first playthrough, but I've not touched the demon auction system, not even in the Triangulum arc. I never really needed it anymore. So once my compendium started filling up, which is the other thing, I moved from the auction to the compendium. I don't know. Did you have the same type of behavior or?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I bid for cheap demons to fuse them, but and sometimes I might need that lesser demon again. Sometimes it's cheaper to bid for them than to buy them from the compendium. Seemed like the compendium cost was much higher, but towards the end game when you have like much more powerful demons, there's no reason to kind of go back and buy any of these demons anymore. It's better off to just fuse new and better ones.
Yeah, exactly. So the auction in the beginning indeed is very nice. You can there's like a 5 second countdown where you can basically either pre-bid very high or you can just wait on the last second. I noticed just waiting until they bid. You kind of see like this emotion icon to kind of give away if they're above their price. You can basically see their bidding price in the beginning. So if they're like very happy, they'll probably pay a little bit more. So I've actually had a couple of times where I just at 10 Maka I actually got a demon, which was really lucky, or just missed out on a few of them. And then later on, the more you buy demons in the auction, you get these auction cards and you can level up. But basically, there's like 4 or 5 different auction ranges, and you can get demons up to level 40, I would say. Once you're actually in that late Septentrian or later in the game, you really have to rely a lot on fusing, and to fuse unique demons and to fuse stronger demons. So demon fusion. it is the core of an SMT game. It's always there. And the good thing about it is there's many different ways to fuse demons. So you have your companion, you can re-summon them. It's going to cost you quite a lot, unless you are on New Game Plus, where you have the titles for lowering the price of the demon companion, which is great. But you can just get the ones you had, and you can fuse them together. There's all sorts of different types again, which that has always been, for me personally, the tough thing about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. Is in Persona you have the tarot types, I would say, and in SMT you have different types of types. And I don't know how it's for you, but I maybe there's some people out there on the internets and the game facts and stuff that can just easily sum up like, oh yeah, you need that particular demon. No, you just gotta fuse type A and type B together, and then you'll get type C. And I'm like, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
don't understand that cross system.
yeah. To me personally, like you said, Persona had their own system, whatever